Good afternoon, distinguished participants. Welcome back. Now going on to the second and final segment of this training. Our facilitator is on ground and ready to go. But before he comes up, just permit me to briefly introduce him. He is an emblematic, highly cerebral and service-driven corporate lawyer and governance professional. He prides a deep wealth of multinational, cross-country, and all-weather experiences that span over 20 years across key sectors, namely banking, telecommunication, oil and energy, FMCG, and information technology. Prior to his current assignment as a management scholar and governance advisor at RIP and Ascensiel, he was company secretary stroke legal advisor of Lotus Bank, where he was an integral part of the foundational management team and was well involved in many of the bank setup projects. Prior to Lotus Bank, he had played key governance and growth champion roles at Alpha Beta Consulting LLP, Jotna Group, stroke the Lacasera Company PLC, AOS Orwell Group, Bank PHB PLC / Keystone Bank Limited, Airtel Nigeria, and Habib Nigeria Bank PLC. He was a vibrant focal point in series of big ticket transaction, governance, critical issues management, large-scale corporate setups, and high-profile transformation projects that cut across Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, South Africa, UK, France, United Arab Emirates, and Singapore. A law alumnus of the renowned OAU IFE, he was called to the bar in 1999. He holds an MBA in International Business and Management from the prestigious Royal Holloway University of London, and an executive LLM International Business Law. He has attended both local and international courses. In corporate and commercial law, corporate governance, strategic leadership, and corporate transformation. A fellow of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators and fellow of Chartered Institute of Arbitrators. Is equally a fellow of the Institute of Corporate Administration and fellow of the Institute of Management Consultants. He is a renowned management scholar whose works has been cited by top-rated global institutions. In recognition of his erudite feats and project exploits in corporate Nigeria and Africa, he has received series of distinguished awards, both at local and international levels, namely Nigeria's Most Outstanding Professional by The Guardian in 2015, Africa's Best Corporate Professional Leader by Africa Development International in 2016, and Nigeria's Foremost Corporate Lawyer by Hall of Excellence and Top Achievers in 2017. Our facilitator for today is a member of humanitarian and prestigious social clubs in Lagos, and he's blessed with two beautiful daughters. Distinguished participants, please join me as I welcome Mr. Omogbemi Faramobi Adilagun, FCIS, as he makes his presentation to us this afternoon on managing legal and compliance risk in modern organizations, issues and challenges. Practical case studies. Mr. Omogbemi, you have the floor, sir. You are welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Odidi. Thank you very much for the great citation. In fact, my head was swollen as if this citation was not there for me. It's a pleasure to come back again to share knowledge with some of our fellow colleagues. I'm going to share my screen now, first and foremost, so that we can quickly move to business. Do I believe that everyone can view my screen?
Yes, sir. We can see your screen.
Can I get a response? Is my screen visible? Oh, thank you very much.
Yes, it is.
The theme of our discussion, I'll call it discussion, is managing legal and compliance risk in modern organizations. The reason for this theme is because we observe that a lot of organizations are still reneging. There have been a paradigm shift in recent years to what we call integrative or enterprise risk management. So many organizations are not yet aware of this paradigm shift, and they are still reneging on the old traditional techniques of viewing risk as an enemy. You know, what religion told us that you should always run from Satan, that Satan is the enemy and that you should run away from it. That is the whole traditional model. Today, we are beginning to understand that Satan understand his own strategy. And then that is the best way by which you can avoid devil. So risk is no more seen as an enemy to be run away from. It is now perceived as a friend or even an enemy to be understood. You have to understand it. You have to understand the process, the historical, the dialectics of risk management. And that is why we have chosen this, so that some of us who have not yet been apprised of this paradigm shift in the traditional model of risk management can be in tune with the new process. So our learning contents will go as follows. It is very important that we know how we're going to proceed or how we're going to fare. Simple point demonstration and interactive learning is going to be the style. Why is it simple point demo? Is that we are not going to bother ourselves with technicality. You know, when we get so much engrossed in technicality has a way of eroding understanding and eroding what we call internalization of knowledge. When knowledge is so technical, people start cramming. No, we are professionals. And why we are professionals is that we have to take knowledge into the practical field to solve problems in our various organizations. That is the essence of knowledge. That's why we are a chartered secretary or we are a lawyer. We have to solve problems, someone else's problem. So if that is the purpose of knowledge, then we should not be technical about it, let us define what is risk management. We just want to understand what this thing is. When we understand it, we can easily internalize the knowledge to solve our own problem, to solve problems even in our family, and to solve problems in our organizations, most importantly. First and foremost, after then, understanding of key terms is very important. Meaning of risk, we just need to understand what it is. We are not saying knowledge of key terms, understanding it. We need to understand what risk means. A lot of people don't understand risk. Like I already said in the traditional model, risk is being perceived as an enemy, you know, as something that can be avoided. But things are changing. We are now beginning to see in life. COVID-19 has proved to everybody that risk is intrinsic to life. Once you are in existence, you are at risk. Even as you are sitting, both of us are at risk. Some people believe it's only when you are traveling. They say, "Oh, pray for me, I'm traveling tomorrow." It's only when we're going to war that we can pray. My brother and sisters, it is false. The new model of risk management will let us know that risk is intrinsic, is ever constant. It's just like change. That's what Heraclitus told us, that change is the only thing that is constant in life. The thing also about the risk, it is constant in life. It is unavoidable. That is the truth. Now, we understand it when we get there. Don't let me waste your time. What are legal and compliance rules? We now want to understand our own area of risk management, because we are lawyers. Some of us are lawyers. I can see some of us are company secretary, legal advisor. Some of us are also in private practice. And some of us are also risk manager in our organization. It is important to understand what legal and compliance risks are, while we also understand the general meaning of risk. And why are they critical? Why are they critical? Why are we, if everything is risk? Of course, we can say legal and compliance risk are just part of risk. So what's different? They are critical. We will see why they are critical. Then when we understand it, like I told you, the essence of this course, you know, my predecessor in terms of facilitating for this program has laid what we call foundation. That's what she has come to do. Foundation in terms of what is corporate governance. What are the legal and compliance functions of you and I in an organization? She has been able to tell us these. So we've understood first and foremost what these functions are. Now, our own function here is to be able to show the techniques, the tools that you are going to use to manage risk effectively in your organization. We are not talking of risk management. Our objective would be effective risk management. Every organization has women have been managing risk, but what is effective risk management? That is another paradigm shift from the old traditional model, which sees risk as something that is differential, as something that is hostile. Effective risk management sees risk as something that is enterprising, is all inclusive in the organization. We will see how it is. So we will try and understand traditional versus integrated risk management. We will see risk policy strategy, risk policy and strategy. That is, first and foremost, you cannot be talking about risk management when you don't have a risk policy in your organization. You cannot talk about risk management when you don't have a risk strategy. If I'm going to ask some of you, what is your risk strategy? What can you tell me the risk strategy in the organization? Well, and I'm going to ask, so some of us can start preparing for that question. In your organization, what is your own risk strategy? You are managing risk. Everybody is managing risk. Every organization manages risk. In fact, like one economist said, we said the object of this anachronism of them in terms of definition, that the essence of business is to manage risk, optimize risk, so that you can make money. Because the more profit you can make in business, if you have heard about this acronym, is that the more business you have made in business, the greater the profit. The higher the profit, the higher the risk. It's just like the law of demand and supply, or the law of demand that we used to say, when you say the higher the, that is the same thing that operates when we come about talking about profit making in business. Because everybody believes, I want to go and make money in business. But every profit means risk. There's no way you're going to talk about profit when you don't talk about risk. But because we all love to make money, we believe we always look at the bottom line, we always look at the figure. We do not look at the risks that are involved also. So business is about risk management, not about profit making. And even if you say, okay, let us define it in that linear definition. Let's give it a linear definition. Business is about making money. How are you going to make that money? It's just like saying, somebody told me football is about goal scoring. I said, you are stupid. Because, okay, if football is about goal scoring, if Mr. Ojiji scored me, immediately Mr. Ojiji scored me, I scored Mr. Ojiji. Mr. Ojiji went to score me, I scored Mr. Ojiji. Mr. Ojiji went to score me, I scored Mr. Ojiji. Mr. Ojiji went to score me, I scored Mr. Ojiji. It means at the point of the end of the match, it is the only person that is going to win is the man who was able to score last. Is that not? So now, if and anything can happen toward the end, you can get a red card. Because if you feel, oh, Mr. Ojiji scored me, I'm going to score you. What about if you get a red card? What about if your goalkeeper gets a red card? What about if you get a penalty? And then your calculation is misplaced. So it means that you must also have a solid defense. Goalkeeping, footballing is not all about attacking and scoring. It's also about defending and goalkeeping. Because if you score many goals and the opponent can also score more goals than your many goals, you have lost. But if I can defend and my opponent cannot score, but I can score only 1 or 2 goals, what happened? I have won. If you are in the final match, nobody is going to say, oh, we scored 20 goals or 10 goals. It is the man who wins. Now, the ability to win a match is about also the ability to defend properly and to goalkeep properly. So if you are, and that's also always the tension and the tension that we always involve, all of us that we call ourselves governance professional. That is always the problem, is the ability to balance entrepreneurial interests with all other stakeholders' interests. Because entrepreneur will say, please, Mr. Man, I want money. Don't tell me all this bullshit about corporate governance. I want to make money. And even most of the time when they are telling you about corporate governance, they are only using corporate governance as a tool to make money. Nothing is wrong about that. Professor Michael Porter have already told us, and just like Mrs. Odiadi told us, that the business case for corporate governance, even okay, fine, you want to make money, your goal is to make money. What we are saying is that even if your goal is to make money, you still have to make sure that you have a good corporate governance and compliance process and solid and strong management system in your organization. So now, once we understand that every risk management involves that, you must first of all have a risk policy. You can't go, because if you don't have a policy, you don't have a framework by which you are going to guide your actions. What's the purpose? And then you must have a risk strategy, which we also regard as risk optimization. Because, like I told you, it's not about risk avoidance anymore. Traditional model told us about risk avoidance. Avoid risk. We have now found out that you cannot avoid it. We have found out, historians have even found out that everything in life is a cycle. For example, if you understand when COVID-19 came in, they told us, people were able to trace history to tell us that this thing happened every 100 years. That there are certain things also that happen every 20 years, whether you like it or not. If you like, bring all the technology apparatus into this world. Put in all the best solid preventive measures. What will happen, will happen. Q sera sera. So we have now understood that risk is to be optimized, not avoided. You have to optimize it. You have to find a way to take advantage of risk. You can make money from risk. That's what Michael Porter have said. We will look at how it is done. So corporate risk profile is another tool method. We're going to use SWOT method. That there's no way, first of all, if you now want to start using this tool after you have had policy and strategy in place, the first thing is that you must have a corporate risk profile. Well, all your risks are itemized so that you can have a checklist. All your risks, you will itemize them, whether they are high or low or small or medium. You must optimize all your risks. That is the first step, so that you can see them on the dashboard. Oh, these are all my enemies. Call them devils, call them anything you like. You can even call them friends. What is important is how you are going to manage it effectively. So risk prioritization and mitigation is another tool of risk management, which we are now coming, we also see. Then we talk about some examples of risk management tools, like having a checklist, risk register, risk mapping, and risk rating. How are you going to rate your risk? Like we know there are some risks that are high, but they are high, but the probability of them happening is low. Then there are some risks that are little, they are small. In terms of this risk is a small risk, but the probability of them happen is high, and they will always happen frequently. Will you allow them? Will you say because it's a small risk, but it can happen frequently? It will continue to happen every day. Will you not say because it's a small risk, I will not manage it? You have to manage it. Because even if it's a small risk, even if it's insignificant, but because of the frequency, and because it is frequency, even though it is small, it is frequent. It's just like a mosquito. If one mosquito is biting you every day, only one mosquito, you know, when you come to your house, you say only one mosquito, I have problem, no problem. It's only when you see a lot of mosquitoes in your house, say, I'm in trouble. Yes, of course, you are in trouble. But one mosquito too, biting you every day, it's also a risk, because it continues to buy you money afternoon and night without any problem. So you can imagine. So that is also a risk to some extent. Now, postmortem, when we have looked at the risk management, effective risk management, then we do a postmortem so that we can test our understanding And we can look at some of the case studies or takeaway stories. You know, some of the things we need to remember. Mrs. Odiadi told us about First Bank. We all remember what happened in First Bank. Who will ever believe that one of our greatest mentors, you know, the woman who is the chairman, everybody loves the woman, but you can see how come the chairman of such an organization will now be in a mess, in a corporate governance mess? What happened? Why? So we will look at some of these things, and then we take our conclusion. The conclusion will be automatic and logical, because by the time we look at it, we know that this is the problem of risk management. This is the major challenge, and this is how we are going to tackle it. And then it will not be nice for me, because some of us are lawyers, some of us are also company secretary and legal advisor. We will give you a compendium of relevant regulations. There is no specific rule and regulation or legislation in Nigeria that govern risk management or compliance or legal and risk, compliance risk management. No. But they are all spread, risk management, legal and compliance risk management are spread through the various regulations that we have, especially business and corporate regulations, starting from CAMA, SEC, ISA, Investment and Securities Act, and down to the corporate governance codes. You know, in those days, people said, oh, corporate governance is for big companies. It's only for PLCs or multinationals. But things have changed. Even small companies have to be well governed. Even churches and mosques have to be accountable, because we have seen now that a lot of politicians, a lot of criminals use churches and mosques for money laundering. We have seen that they use churches and mosques to evade tax. And so we have now found out that we have to also, the government must be able to check the activities, especially business activities of some of the churches and mosques. Because once a church and a mosque moves from religious activity and say, you know, me too, I want to create schools, I'm having schools, I have a business, some of them are having a lot of business investments they are managing. And then they don't pay tax because they will tell you it's church that owns it. And then we say, no, you have left your charitable activity, you have now explored and you have moved into, because you want to generate money, you want to get money to be able to give scholarship, fine. You want to be able to generate money to do charity. But because you are also making profit in some other areas, we have to check you like we check other business. It's simple. And then because of this, a lot of politicians, a lot of criminals, a lot of fraudsters are using most churches as a conduit for money laundering, because they know churches and mosques are not investigated. And that's why today you see, in those days when I was small, an average reverend or bishop or imam is a conservative human being. They are not materialistic. They are very conservative because they are men of God. But today, it's not like that. We see imam, you know, in some of them even have bodyguards that are even more than those that the governors have. Where do they get the money? Is it the money that they are contributing in the mosque? When we look at the people who are in the mosque or churches, they are still they are poor people. So where are these coins coming from? Billions. Is obviously, it means it has shown that some of these organizations too have, you know, the range from charitable and religious and spiritual activities to, you know, some other activities. So I do not want to bother you with that. So we see some of the code of corporate governance as well. And if, like I told you, our approach is simple point demo. Like Albert Hastings said, if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. If I ask somebody, tell me what is risk, and he's giving me too much of technical definition, or he's having problem, you know, it means he doesn't understand it. When you understand something, you just provide an example, a real life example. And as professional, we don't need really to bother ourselves with definition. It is because, like I told you, our objective is to solve problem as professional. Solve problem in your organization and not to create problems. So the first objective like I said, what we're going to look at is what is risk? What is risk? I have given a definition of what the Concise Oxford Dictionary has given us. Said anything with a chance of bad consequence. But what I have on the screen, if any one of us has a comment to make, or you have something to add, maybe you feel this definition doesn't really capture risk. Because if this is risk, anything with a chance of bad consequence, what does that mean? It means then everything is a risk. Well, tell us what then, if there is something that is risk and there is something that is not a risk. I would like to hear from some of you, whether you agree with this definition, because it is important that we must agree. If this definition, we do not agree with this definition, there is a problem. Then every other thing, they miss the foundation, you know. So for us to be able to move to the next level, because this is where this definition is what is going to be, we are going to be leveraging on as we are moving on. So we must first of all understand and agree, all of us must agree that this definition, you agree with it. Think about it first. You know, because like I told you, the traditional old model is always saying, we always look at risk as if risk is something different from profit. Risk is something different from what is good. Risk is different. So risk is something we can demarcate. It's something that has a location of its own, like a devil. You know, he has his own place. Just like God is in heaven, devil is on earth. But you know, we have now all understood now that God is omniscient. God is everywhere. It's not just in heaven. It's in everywhere. It's in your spirit. It's in your bone. It's in the sand. It's in the moon. So let me ask some of our participants, do you agree with this definition? If you don't agree, let us know why you don't agree. If you feel, well, maybe, well, you agree, but it is inadequate, you need to add something or include something. We are welcome. So can I see some hands up?
Participants, please make your contribution.
Okay, well, I actually agree with the definition, most especially the second point, which says risk is everywhere.
Excuse me, please, can you put yourself on video? We'd like to see the speaker.
Okay, well, this is Adesha Yoshiswaya, but let's just proceed. I will turn on my video before I make another.
Yeah, okay, you are still drinking tea as your breakfast on your bed.
All right.
Oh, yeah, so you are joining us from the bathroom.
No, I'm actually working from home, so but I'd rather not turn on the video.
Working? Is he working from home? That's why one of my former bosses she doesn't want you to work from home, because we found out one day we were on the screen and you know, they said turn off your video and it's in towel, you know. Well, you know, so
what is most important is getting the work done, not the state you're in while you're getting the work.
No. Some people took her up on that, and they found out that like you all know, ethics. You know, you are joining a place where they can call you to turn on your video, and then you're in towel on your bed. Ethically, is it right? You know, let's just be real. I agree with you. The ultimate objective is, but ethically, you know, ethics.
Ethics is actually evolving. I mean, that's another conversation, and let's not go into that. But I think even ethics, as we know it, is evolving. All the set ideas we have in our heads.
Okay, so if we tell the person to, and then he's saying, no, I cannot switch on my video. No, we insist, switch on your video, and he's saying, I cannot. Please, I'm in towel.
No, so it depends on the kind.
No, I'm asking, what will be the consequence?
Yes, so that's what I'm saying. Like right now, this question I'm about to ask, I'm not under any compulsion. You understand? I understand that when we want to take a group picture, then I need to turn on my
action from HR.
Hello?
I am. Yes.
Yes, so I'm saying
as we are proceeding that this is part of risk management as well.
I cannot call a colleague now from home and then be insisting he turns on his video. Of what relevance is that video to the conversation I need to ask? Well, I mean, to have with him. But it depends on what the context is. And
yeah, I'm going to tell you the reasons why it is necessary. Sometimes we insist. You know, just like sometimes as we are giving you this training. Sometimes you find out that some people have even left. They have left the forum, but they switch on. They are in the kitchen. And as a facilitator, it is one of my responsibility to ensure that people should know that they can be called upon at any time, and we can ask you to switch on video, because we want to be sure that you are concentrating. Some people are not responsible, and it is our duty as facilitator to make them to show responsibility. Even if you don't value the fact that your organization must have sponsored you, even if you are the one, I'm sure if you are the one that sponsored yourself. But we found out that even those who sponsor themselves are not sponsoring themselves because they want to take knowledge. They are only sponsoring themselves because they want to mark attendance and collect certificates for decoration or to be able to put it on their CV, not because they want to imbibe the knowledge. So as a facilitator, sometimes in a Zoom or wherever we're using virtual something, we can insist that please, as you're speaking to us, switch on your video. The reason is this, so that other people will know that they can call on me anytime. And so everybody will be at alert. You know, we human beings, once there are no rules and regulations, once there are no checks, and one of the things we are talking about risk management is just about checks. It's about checks and balances. Risk management has no meaning if there is no check and balance, if we are not talking about checks and balances. So the same thing with a human being. Any human being wants freedom. And if you give a human being freedom too liberally, they will abuse it. And that's the fact. Even myself. You can see now, you see that I'm at home. But Ixan insists that if you're at home, please, you must put yourself on screen. And then you must make sure that you have the Ixan logo. The reason is because I don't want to, you know, be here and then you'll be seeing the background of my house, a curtain that is not well, it doesn't really look sound sometimes.
That's what I was trying to avoid as well.
It's professional. It's part of professional, you know. I agree with you. So if you give an excuse that, see, I am not in the mode to turn on, I will agree with that, but not to say, no, I have the right to. You understand? You know, I will have that and say, okay, fine. I understand the respect for privacy or the fact that you don't want to cause embarrassment. That makes sense. But we should not drag it beyond that. To say, because it's virtual, I can be on my bed. Well, it doesn't really, even your child, if he's there with you, I say, mommy, but you're in training and you're sitting on bed. Let's assume like a child, you're your child, your son or something. They're doing virtual and she's sitting on her bed relaxing. You will insist that, no, stand up, you're in training, even though they're not seeing you. Sit down. Because when you sit down, you know, it gives you a sense, there's a sense of concentration that when you're lying down. That's a fact. Go and test it. I've read books on psychologists and said when you want to read books, even the brain, in terms of the way the blood runs through, when you sleep and you're on your laptop doing like this, sometimes, yeah, because of tiredness, because of fatigue, we can do that. But it should not be a habit. Biologically, and the way God has created us, we have to stand, you know, sit upright to deliver so that we can concentrate, be attentive. It also shows respect to it's just like if I'm talking to you now and I'm lying down like this. You'll feel disrespected, even if.
And that's why I didn't expect you to turn on your video if you were going to do that. You know, this conversation started from having to turn on the video during, yes, you know, answering a question and having to turn on the video. I do not think it is important. I mean, the mere fact that I indicated I wanted to answer a question already shows attentiveness. It's not until my video is left turned on, or, you know, I don't think. I mean, that's just my view.
Are you a lawyer? Are you a lawyer?
Yes.
Okay,
no problem. Beyond being
don't worry. Let's go on. Let's go on. I don't let me drag it on. I just want to pass.
I wanted to answer a question. I've almost forgotten what I. We're talking about risk being everywhere.
Yes.
And I was going to actually concur with that. That yes, I mean we have risk in every situation, even as a simple task as walking up and down the stairs, taking a decision whether to cross the road, use an overhead bridge or whatnot. Risks exist in all situations we find ourselves. So it's important. I mean, this course and what we're doing here today is actually important to know how to address or manage this risk as, you know, we encounter them.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
There's anyone who feels otherwise, or who feels supportive, or just want to add something supplementary to what we have said, so that we can move on to the next slide. Hello, can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes,
Thank you. Okay. So there is no contrary view, no supportive view, no supplementary view. Everybody agrees with that definition.
Well, taking a cue from your definition, risk is continuous. You know, you can't be too careful, and the whole essence why we must always learn to mitigate against unforeseen risk. To actually put specific controls in place to minimize any form of exposure. So risk is necessary and is continuous. So yes, I agree with your third points alongside.
Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Risk is a necessary continuum. One of the greatest scholars on risk management is Peter Scott's Consulting. It's one of the firms that has won the award of London Business School, Harvard Business School, on areas of controls and risk in the organizations. And we just have to be able to look at what they've said. And they said, because such an erudite consulting firm, before they come out with these basic attributes of risk, it will be difficult for anybody to actually negate what they've said. Everything is risk. Everything is risk. Risk is everywhere. Risk is a necessary continuum. There's no stoppage. Unless we die. Unless even when you are in the grave, we don't even know what's going to happen. So you cannot even say that is the only place where there's no risk. So we can't but agree. There's no way. If you look at it very well, if you understand that anything with a chance of bad consequence, anything with a chance of bad consequence, that's what the concept. Open your concepts or Oxford Dictionary, Google your Webster's Dictionary. This is the definition you find. Anything with a chance of bad consequence. And when you look at that definition, you say, okay, anything with a chance of bad consequence. Now start looking. Is there anything in life that is so beautiful that has no other side? Is there anything in life that's so good that has no other side? Is there anything in life that is free of risk? So that's why we said everything is risk. Even you yourself, you are a risk. You are a risk to your family, you are a risk to your organization, you are a risk to your company, you are a risk to yourself. That's the truth. Because sometimes, even you say, oh, how can I be a risk to myself? You make certain decisions in life. You take some decisions. When you have to take, okay, go between left and right, you will take the decisions. That decision you make is a risk. Risk is everywhere. Even you, apart from you, okay, let's leave yourself. Risk is everywhere. There is nowhere you don't find risk. Let anybody tell me. Technology comes in to help us to make life easy. You know, we have aeroplane, we have technology, but they all come with risk, even bigger risk than the problem they decide to come and solve. So if you're on air, you will understand what we mean. We have all witnessed a lot of crashes, airplane crashes. You can see that most times when there is a plane crash, the possibility of somebody surviving is very low. Anybody surviving. But this is something that even a journey of 6 months, you can get there within 2 days because you use a plane. So there's convenience, but there's also a risk in it if something goes wrong. Risk is a necessary continuum. So these are the definitions of risk that we are going to take through this course. And once we have agreed with it, I am so happy that everyone is agreed with it. That definition and that description of risk. Now, we now want to look at what are legal risks. We have understood that everything is risk, but which one do we define as legal risk or compliance risk? forgive me if I say legal, I also means compliance, because compliance is just a tautology in the real sense of it. Everything about compliance is legal, because compliance is talking about what regulations you must comply with certain regulations. So what are regulations? What do you do as a legal advisor in an organization? It's about trying to say your company should comply. So anything legal is actually compliance. But over the years, because in the bank, for example, if you are working in a bank, you understand that how come they have legal and then they have compliance? What happened? The man who is in charge of legal should or compliance should be part of legal. The reason is because bank is a big business, and because there are a lot of regulations, and especially certain specific regulations that are very peculiar to bank, and because they carry a huge financial liabilities or reputational damage for the organization. So that's why they have demarcated compliance away from legal and said there is compliance. Some of those is AML, anti-money laundering regulations, or CFT. Because of the delicacy or delicateness of this particular compliance, or let me say regulation, anti-money laundering. So a particular department needs to manage it, even though it's legal, even though it's from regulation, it's about regulatory compliance, so it's legal. But because it can cause a huge damage to the bank, and because it's a very serious business for the bank, that you must monitor your money laundering, any form of money laundering activities within, or that is coming to within your banking business. So that's why a compliance department is different from legal. That's all. And most times when you look at the compliance department, most of the people who wear the compliance department are also lawyers. Most are lawyers. And anywhere they're not lawyers, they will be accountants. Just like today we have debt recovery department separate from legal department, because organization is growing bigger, banking business is growing bigger. In those days, debt recovery is part of legal services. It is the legal department that's going to ask a lawyer to recover. But because the legal department is already overburdened, so we need to separate debt recovery, because debt recovery is also a very huge risk to the organization, especially to the bank. If I give you if I have a lot of bad debts, even if I'm making a lot of money, if I have a lot of bad debts, I'm as much as I am insolvent as a bank, because of the risk demarcation regulations that the Central Bank of Nigeria have provided for all banks. So it is now important, in order to reduce the burden of the legal department, to take away some department and let them stand alone. So it's not as if when we say compliance, it actually means that we are talking of different things. No, really. It is still the same thing. We are talking about complying with legal rules, with regulations, and all those things. That's all. But because the bank being business is very delicate and it's very sensitive, and there are some regulations that are so sensitive and carry huge liabilities, compliance was now separated from legal services. So that's why. So when I say what are legal risks, it's also the same thing as what are compliance risks. So please understand that. Now, if you look at it, we've tried to, it's just for the sake of understanding. In fact, the two major risks in an organization, legal and compliance risks, are legal risk, contract risk, and regulatory risk. Those are the two major risks. Every other type of risk that we are talking are going to come forth from these two risks. If any of the participants want to share views on this, I will appreciate that. The two major risks in every organization, I have only listed this out just for us to have an understanding, But the two major risks in every organization in terms of legal and compliance is contract risk and regulatory risk. That every other risk, agency, litigation, internal policy, ethics and governance, brand and reputation, they derive from these two major risks, contract risk and regulatory risk. If you have anything to say, or if you don't agree, because I always like us to agree on simple fundamental elements of this course, you can please also contribute before we move to the next slide?
Participants, okay, Jane Akwan, please go ahead.
Hello, good afternoon all.
Good afternoon.
Hello,
Yeah.
yes, in respect of contract risk, I agree because where I worked sometime last year before COVID-19, we entered an agreement with a company for supply of trucks. So that contract was worth over 10 million naira, more than, was worth a lot of money. But now, when COVID now took place in March, then there was a foreign exchange went up. It affected that contract of ours. The supplier could now not meet the timeline. So there was, then the cost of purchasing the trucks, as he claimed, went up. And so there was delay in supply. And as a result of that delay, we could now not use those trucks for our business. So I agree that in contracts too, there is risk. That's my contribution.
Well, thank you very much, Jane, at least for that contribution and sense of belonging. What we are saying is actually that there are two major risks: contract risk. There are two major legal and compliance risks: contract risk and regulatory risk. Okay. That every other risk we have listed out, or any other one you two would like to list out, that they are not here, okay, will derive from this, either of these or both. That's what we are saying. That the two legal and compliance risks majorly are contract and regulatory. That every other risk, agency risk, litigation risk, internal policy and procedural risk, regulatory and statutory liability risk, ethics and governance, brand and reputation risk, derive from these two or either of one of them. That's just what I want you to.
I agree.
Okay, thank you very much. So is there any other, because the reason for this position is it, if you look at it, we talk about agency risk. For example, every organization, we have agents who work for them. They are not the employees. They are agents who will act for them. So they will do certain things on your behalf, even though you are not the one that transacts with that customers. Because it's your agent, it can put you in liability. So that's why we say agency risk. But where does this agency risk derive from? It derives from contracts. Either the contract you have with your customers, whereby you now take an agent, you outsource something out to a supplier to do that thing for you so that you can serve your customers. That's the reason. Now, that agent did not perform or misperform. Your customer doesn't want to know. That's one. That agent went to go and do certain things on your behalf because you have appointed him as agent outside. It can put you in certain liabilities because it could drag you in somehow. But don't let us go there. It's just for us to understand that the two major risks in terms of legal and compliance are contract risk and regulatory risk. Every other risk comes from litigation. Most of the litigation you have in organizations come from your customers, business partners, suppliers, the contract or relationship. A contract, when we say contract risk, it does not necessarily have to be written contract. Any relationship, business relationship you have developed is a contract, whether it's oral, whether it's formal or informal. So now, any relationship, business relationship, you intend it to be binding because there is consideration, there is offer, there is acceptance. Those four elements of contract are there. Once they are there, it doesn't matter that they are not written or they are oral or they are formal or informal. There is a relationship. So once there is a dispute or there is a complaint or there is a grievance, those grievances can lead to what we call dispute management or litigation risk. Regulatory risk can also lead to litigation because you can be prosecuted by your regulator. If you misfile, or if you don't file within time, or if there is something you're supposed to do, you don't do, or a report you are supposed to provide, you didn't provide in time. Your regulator look at ISA. There are a lot of penalties or prosecution, legal prosecution. You'll be taken to court. EFCC, for example, can charge you to court for certain things, maybe even for money laundering. So litigation risk does not stand on its own. It will generate either from contract or regulatory. Internal policies and procedural risk. Where do you do internal policies and procedure? Because you want to have an internal policy that will guide your employee, that will guide also your relationship with suppliers and your customers or your vendors. So you have policies which you are going to also make sure that these policies do not go or do not go against the rules and regulations that are given to you by your industry regulations, your sectoral regulators, or corporate regulators. So you will see also that internal policies and procedural risk generate either from contract risk or regulatory risk. Regulatory and statutory liabilities, of course, these are liabilities that generate from either because you are penalized or you have been sanctioned or you have been prosecuted, and then you have to pay penalties or fines. They generate from regulatory. Even sometimes breach of contract can be regulatory. If you breach a contract with the customers, like source of CBN regulations, if you look at some of the operational guidelines from CBN, you see that, for example, CBN regulated what you call tariffs, how you are going to charge your customers. So if you mischarge me and I got an editor to audit my accounts, I can use the CBN court that you have not only breached regulation and procedure. So all these risks, like I said, would generate either from contract risk and regulatory risk. Those are the two major legal and compliance risks in an organization. So the next question is why legal risks are so critical. I will want so much of interactive phase in this process here because virtually why risk management? Why are we talking about risk management? Why are we even saying, okay, let's manage legal risk or whatever? It's because of the damages that they can cause if they are not properly or effectively managed. Those damages is the reasons. Now, there are actors. If you look at the screen, there are actors of risk, those who can generate risk in the organization or can lead you to risk or can also have responsibility to prevent you from risk. So they can prevent you from risk. They can also lead you to risk. Just like, for example, a goalkeeper can be a scorer, a defender can score. The same way, he can also even score against you. He can go and help you to score. You can defend your team from the opponent from scoring you. The same way he himself can help to score, can help one of the attacker to score, or can even cause your opponent to score you by mistake or by blunders. So these actors are directors and management in the organization, employees, agents, your agent, the agent you employ, though they are not your employees. You know, most of organizations today, they outsource and they have consultants. They don't want to bear the burdens of employee-employer relationship. They outsource some of these things to consultants. These are agents. This agent can put you in risk. The same way they can also help to prevent risk. Customers and others. Your customers can put you in risk. Merely by your customer petitioning EFCC, your customer petitioning CBN. Because once a customer is not happy with you, maybe with a service you have provided, or he feels you have cheated him, and he feels that, well, the contract I have, I cannot take you to court because I don't have a contract with you, or I don't have a detailed contract with you. What he will do, if he has a good lawyer, is that he will just look at what does EFCC's regulation said, or what does CBN regulation said about the charges. Once he sees that there is a breach of that regulation, he's going to use that to petition and then start causing reputational damage. Even, it's not only when you go to court and the court proclaims you guilty. Once you start having so much litigation, any company, once everybody, your employees, your customers, your suppliers, your vendors are taking you to court, you are damaging your reputation in the organization. Even at the end of the day, you go to court and you may win. Nobody wants to know. The people will look at what kind of organization is this, that everybody is taking you to court all the time. It means there is a problem. It means you cannot manage relationship or you cannot manage risk properly. The same way your regulators can help you to prevent risk. They can also put you in risk. And then we have the consequences. On the right side is the consequences of those risks if they crystallize or if they occur. Brand damages, financial loss. Let me tell you why brand damage is first. It's because what any company, let me tell you what any company is selling, whether you are a service company, if you are selling service, or you are selling product or goods, anything you are selling is majorly your brand. Anything an organization is selling is brand. For example, I remember when I was in La Casera, we're trying to transform that company because there was a serious reputational damage that was, out of even false, slandering. You know what people call slandering or whatever in law. Some people, most of the competitors, competitors to are your enemies. Everybody is fighting. Once you make any mistake, they can escalate it and then they can lie against you. And people will believe you. They say, La Casera, don't drink La Casera again because they are using a particular chemical to produce La Casera. And people believe it. The reason is this. They found out that when you use that La Casera drink, some mechanics are using it to wash their battery and to wash engine. So people stop using it and said, if there is a drink, some mechanic, everybody believes that was a great damage to the reputation of that organization. It takes a huge amount of expenditure in terms of resources, time, and media publicity for the organization to actually be able to convince the public that the La Casera drink is not a chemical drink. It was difficult to convince people. It was serious. So that brand damage is a serious something. Once your brand is damaged, I could remember there was a time for 1 month, the fall in the sale of Coca-Cola products in Nigeria, in this country, about 4 years ago. Within 1 month of when the court declared the company that they produce a particular product that caused stomach eruption to a customer, and the customer was awarded millions of naira in damages. People stopped drinking Coca-Cola. So once your brand has problem, once your brand, your reputation, your damage, it will affect anything you're selling because people will not come to your shop again. It's just like in those days, people will say, when you see some people doing when we were young, some people were frying akara, dundu, and all those things. You see a lot of people queuing. We always queuing. Some people will queue to the level that they want to. They will queue. They will be fighting. Once the akara is done, people will be fighting, and some of them almost want to spread themselves onto the hot oil on fire. And people were on a media publicity, which that one is a wizard. He and it to be so
Hello, Mr. Mangwemi, are you there? Hello?
He's muted.
Okay.
He would need to unmute.
Okay, sorry. I think there was a network connection or so.
Okay, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes, it is. Yes.
Visible. Okay. Thank you. So like I said this on the left side of why legal risks are so critical is that you have the actors. These are the actors, the active agents, those who can prevent risk, those who can also cause risk in the organization. Directors and management, employees, agents, customers and others, business partners, and regulators are those people. They can cause risk to the organization, and they can also help to prevent risk. Now, those are the actors. The consequences of their actions can lead to, well, legal risks are so critical. This is where we will know. It's because of, one, those are the four major reasons. Brand damage. Brand damage. Once your brand is becoming damaged or is getting defective or is getting lowered in the eyes of the public or your customers, those who are going to patronize you or those who are going to be your future patronizers, are already believing that there is a problem with your brand, with your reputation. Even though your product is good, even though they like your product, won't they have any problem with your brand? That might affect their responsiveness to you or their patronage. So brand damage is something that every organization is trying to protect. And that's where legal risks are so critical. If you look at what Chartered Governance Institute of UK, the Chartered Governance Institute of UK is what we used to know as ICSAN in UK, the ICSC, but they've changed their name to Chartered Governance Institute. And they said, distinct from other types of risk, legal and compliance risk are the most dangerous and the quickest to brand damage. The quickest to brand damage. If there is any other risk, of all risk, the quickest that can damage your brand is legal and compliance risk. If there is anyone in this place who has a contrary view, please let me know. You know, we have a lot of risk in the organization. We have product risk, we have business risk, we have market risk, we have operations risk, we have technology risk. But Chartered Governance Institute of UK said that distinct from other types of risk, that what makes legal and compliance risk distinct is that they are the most dangerous. And they are the quickest to brand damage, that if there is anything that can damage a company's reputation, no matter how much people have valued that reputation before or that organization before, if there is anything that can damage, it's risk and legal compliance risk and business insolvency. That if there is any risk that can drag a company to insolvency, you know what they call insolvency? Is when you don't have money, when you're not liquid anymore, even to pay your debt. That is insolvency. And once you enter insolvency, there's a road to extinction, death, liquidation. You are dead. You are wounded up as an organization. If there is anyone who disagree with Chartered Governance Institute or who want to add something, please let me know. Raise up your hand. Or you believe there is any other risk in an organization, think about it. Is there any other risk in an organization that is most dangerous or, more dangerous than legal and compliance risk? That is quickest. We are not saying there are no other risks that can damage your brand, but we are saying that the one that is most quick, that if you want to damage an organization brand, no matter how strong and powerful that brand is, the quickest risk you can escalate is legal and compliance. And that if you want to move an organization to insolvency, a company that is performing well, they are doing well, they are selling well, but you want to destroy that company quickly. You want to turn that company that is doing well that is in terms of financial performance, you want to turn that company to insolvency? Let somebody tell me what kind of risk that is more than legal and compliance and corporate extinction that can extinguish a company, kill a company, liquidate you without much hassle, without hassle. If you think there are other risks, let us know. Because I always like us to agree on every slide before we move on. Is there anyone? Are our people there? Hope you are not sleeping.
Participants, any contribution?
I can see someone not sleeping. I think Stockwell Lubanji is not sleeping.
Progress, please.
Hello, someone is going to say something.
Progress, please.
Okay, so you're all fine. That means we're all fine with these reasons why legal risks are so critical.
Yes, yes.
And we are all fine with the consequences. You see, one of the ways as risk manager, whether you are a company secretary or a legal or even a solicitor, or you are in practice or you are just a litigation lawyer, risk is everywhere. It's not only in organizations, it's everywhere. Everything is risk, like we have said. Even the art of managing risk. I've read a book by Emilia Fasili. Said the art of managing risk itself is a risk. If anybody is inside, let him come out. Even art. Okay, let me give you an example. When there is an accident, you will see, or there is a fire outbreak, you will see fire brigade with their, you know, because they want to go and, then the fire brigade itself can have accidents on the road. It has happened. And it cannot come to the place where the fire is. It got accident. And there was delay. But so by the time all the problems, the delay and everything was settled, the whole house that they want to go and prevent the fire or whatever, or to downplay the fire outage, has been raised down. So the heart of risk management itself is itself risk. So now, if you look at some of the consequences, it's not only the company that will suffer. Always tell your organization, and this is the area, one strength I have used in many organizations. You see, because an average managing director, they are only risk manager by leap. I have worked in big organizations and I've held top, and I have not been able to survive in most organizations because of my governance stand. Because you as a governance person, no, we can't do this. No, this must be done. No, this is not the way. But they don't like it. And then it creates chaos. And then people will say, oh, but you two, you need to be diplomatic. You need to know how to do, all those things. And, the level, depending on, yes, it's good to be diplomatic, but there's a level of diplomacy that is not warrantable in risk management. Is either yes or no? So, but one of the ways I used to tackle them easily, when you're writing and something that says our brand is going to damage, it doesn't move them sometimes, especially when their eyes is in the morning. What is damage? Let it damage. You want money. We will reinvent the heel. Now, when the brand damage, once the company make money, we will reinvent the heel. We will rebrand. They will tell you that. I've seen an MD that told me, let that brand damage. I want to make this billion. I want this billion to come in. When I make the billions, I will rebrand. But it's true to some extent. Financial losses, sometimes they don't see it. They said, okay, financial losses. For example, an MD has already told me one time, he said, see, you said SCAMA is going to penalize us if you don't do this statutory filing or if you don't hold our AGM within 18 months. We cannot hold this AGM because some of the shareholders are not there. So tell me what SCAMA said that is going to penalize. What is the consequence? We now look at SCAMA. Maybe just like 20,000 or 10,000 naira penalty for every day that which you have not had the AGM or whatever. They said, okay, no problem. For 2 months, I will defer this AGM. I'm ready to pay the 2020 million. I don't want this meeting to be held because there is a cantankerous shareholder who they don't want to come to that meeting to discuss a disruption. So because they want to pass a written resolution. A written resolution will allow what the MD want to achieve to be seamless, to be seamlessly achieved. So the MD does not want the AGM to hold, at least for now. And we have 18 months, which has passed, which has breached KAMA. He said, okay, fine, calculate all those money I'm going to pay. I'm ready to bear the losses. We calculated. He felt, well, this is insignificant. The financial losses are insignificant to the breach. I don't care. So sometimes the financial losses or penalties, they don't care. They don't care because their eyes is on the bigger picture. Individual prosecution, that is what always work. These ones always work. And revocation of your license. Once they want to breach anything, I write a memo and say, even though the company may be penalized or whatever, the particular director, because there are a lot of provisions in KAMA, where the company secretary will be personally liable, where the director who knows and did nothing, or who did the particular, or who, I'm sorry, will be liable. Personally liable. Not just fine. Even in CBN, under most of the CBN regulations, most of the ISA regulations, a director will be personally liable, either in terms of fine or imprisonment. So these ones always catch them. When I highlight this one, that the director can be prosecuted and can be liable to 6 months, because they don't want to go to prison even for 1 day. Even if it's just 1 month imprisonment or 1 year, just put it there, imprisonment. And MD will be careful. Then they will now call you. What can we do? What do you think can we do? Is there any other thing we can do? Think, please. Because he doesn't want to be prosecuted. He doesn't want to go to prison. So if there are regulations where there is individual liability, but especially director liability, you must escalate it. That is always very effective to prevent the director or the manager or the MD or the management from taking or breaching, from breaching or from taking to non-compliance. Their company's debt, if they are going to breach any rules or regulation, which consequence says that it's going to lead to revocation of your certificates or revocation of your permit or license, they don't like that. Because they know that once they're out of business, there's nothing that you can do again. So if there is that, highlight it. The best way to catch your management, to let them have your buy-in as a risk manager, as a legal and compliance risk manager, is by highlighting the consequences for them, especially if the consequence is individual prosecution, such as personal liability of the directors in terms of fines or imprisonment. Sometimes they don't mind fine. They would like to pay the fine because some of them are great risk taker. They said, okay, fine. If I'm prosecuted, what will happen? Is there an option of fine? They will say, yes, there's an option of fine. Oh, how much is it? Oh, at the highest they can charge is 1 million naira, but I want to gain 50 million naira. So why should I, because of 1 million naira fine, avoid? You will tell them, oh, but if you are fine, it's possible that they can put you as ex-convicts. Hello, someone is saying something. Okay, I think ICT team should mute their side because some noises are coming from there. The ICT team of ICSA. So the individual prosecution, company's debts are the two major, icebreaker for very recalcitrant, I call them recalcitrant management who don't like legal and compliance risk. They always believe that legal and compliance risk, that you people in legal and compliance are just cost centers. In those days they call them cost centers. They are just spending money. They're just spending money on them. They don't make money. But when you are able to show them the consequences by proper detailed memo. When there is a problem, do your detailed memo. That's what is important. Do your own detailed memo. Don't bother yourself. You cannot be more Catholic than the Pope. If your company decides, the MD says, I want to breach the law. Who are you? Yeah, I want to breach the law. Tell me how we are going to escape. So most of the time, what they will tell you is, tell us how. I'm telling you realities. Tell us, even though they may not say it plainly or bluntly, but their body language is always, Mr. Man, you are too rigid. Tell us how we are going to break the law and escape the law. So well, as a lawyer, you can do that because your profession allows it. How you can, there's what they call tax avoidance and tax evasion. Tax evasion, tax avoidance is not illegal. So sometimes your company doesn't want to pay tax. But you can tell them and say, there's no way we can escape not paying tax. We have to pay tax. Tax avoidance is criminal. But we can do some things. We can structure our business. We can structure our activities in a way that we will only pay very small tax. Okay, they say, okay, that's better. Hey, you're a good lawyer. Tell us how. That makes sense. If it's within the confines of the law, you can evade, you can do tax evasion, and it's fine. So this part of risk management. It's part of risk management. So those are the reasons why legal risks are so critical. And then we cannot but agree with the Chartered Governance Institute of UK, which is the ICSAN of UK, there's the ICSA of UK. Distinct from other types of risk, legal and compliance risk are the most dangerous and the quickest to brand damage, business insolvency, and corporate extinction. Some of the case studies we will bring later at the conclusive part of this course. We will see some of these consequences in action, and we will see some of the role actors of risk actors. We will also see how some of them contribute or how some of them can also help to prevent risk. All right, I think I need to. Now, we have seen the reasons why legal and compliance risks are so critical. I mean, we don't need, it's not magic. It's not anything theoretical about it. It's clearing that of all the risk, of all the type of risk we have in organization, the quickest that can damage your reputation, the quickest that can lead you, even though you are making money. Can't you see? Have you not seen the case of MTN? When the MTN was first hacked and they said they should pay about almost like a 3 billion or whatever. Tell me, how much is the profit of MTN? Let's even say, okay, they made a profit of 5 billion naira in the year. Someone is saying they should come and pay $300 million just for one offense. So you can imagine, that has eroded all the profit they made in 10 years. That is insolvency. They were just declared bankruptcy. It's simple as that. Just for one offense. So, you can make money, you can make your billions. One single non-compliance event. And if they want to run you down, whether your enemy, your competitor, or the regulator or the government, they don't like you, fine, they don't like you. That's what MTN was saying there, that they don't like you, that's politics. Why did you break the law? Why did you play into the hands of your enemies? Because anytime your enemy want to catch you, they're going to look at where you have defaulted. Even if it's just one small mistake, they messed you up. And that's what happened in politics most of the time. Most of the politicians, 99.9%, not even 99, 100% of all politicians are thieves. But you see few or lot of them will go to prison. Those are the ones that, they will say, when they say, why selective injustice, selective justice? Why only us? It's witch hunting. Why are we witch hunting us? But the question is, if you had not breached the law, your competitor or your political rivals would not have been able to nail you. So whether it's as a result of governance intention or whatever, the truth is that governance, compliance, regulations can be used against you by your competitors, by your rivals, either political rivals or business rivals, to mess you up. That alone is the major reason why a company or an organization should be careful. Because you never know, even you are an employee, a former employee who left, who was feeling bad. But we knew at one point in time you breach the law, can escalate it, can mess you up. Who help you to keep the secret at one point in time? Because you didn't pay him his severance package or you messed him up, he will go out and write a petition to CBN. We have seen it happen many times, where the whistleblowers was just a disgruntled element. But at the end of the day, nobody will say it's a disgruntled element. People will say, what he's saying, is it true? If it's true, let's investigate. They investigate, they found it's true. The company is messed up. I mean, most of us we hear, when I was in Alpha Beta, I had to save the company a lot. I did a lot beyond, because I was the head of corporate services. I was the head of legal services. I was also managing procurement and HR. Then there was a disgruntled MD, a former MD of the company, who was going on Twitter and saying a lot of things about Alpha Beta. And then people say, how can you be saying this man is lying? How can you be saying this man is lying? He was former MD now. Even if it's disgruntled, what he's saying must have an element of truth. So we have to use some of the, and then we say, well, let's go to court. Because if we go to the court of the public court, the court of public opinion, you are going to fail. Our reputation and brand is already in jeopardy. So the best thing we do, we went to court. So when we go to court, by the time the press are coming in, because I was also the head of corporate media, the corporate media department is also under me. So whenever they come, EFCC people come, they said, we said the matter is in court. When the EFCC came, they said they want to investigate. CSC came, they said they want to investigate. We said, you cannot, the master is least spenders. The master is pending in court. When an action is pending in court, you can go and file an application to join in as a party. You cannot come and take an action that will prejudice the fact that the matter is in court. So that was what we were using to save ourselves from, reputational damage. But because, people were tracing the owner of Alpha Beta to some political powerful people, some of the people, the political opponent, skip every day. They wake up. They'll bring something else. They post it on Twitter, post it on social media. And so it was a fight every day. We continue to wake up. Every day is continued fight. Now we continue to wake up to say we just have to manage this risk. It's a big risk. In fact, the greatest risk that was facing us at that time was that Dakwapara's attack on the company. It was the major risk at that time. And if we had not managed it, even the Lagos state government that we were working for and some other government, they were afraid. They said, see, Mr. Man, every day you guys are always in the paper. We don't want to be messed up too, because people will bring us in and say, you are working from us. There are a lot of this and that. So they were not happy to do business with us. They were afraid. So we have to manage all those risks. Now, let us see the major issue. What is the major issue in risk management? Is management reluctance. Yes, you can say sometimes some of the challenges, issues in risk management or effective risk management is about incompetence of risk manager. It's about the structure, management structure of the organization, whether risk management is actually put as a back front, what do you call it, control functions, or as a significant control function in the organization. Or whether in terms of what people call insider dealing. Some people in the organization may sell you out. Some of your staff may not be loyal to you, and they can cause damage to you by releasing some of your critical information to competitors and all those things. Agreed. But the major risk, the major challenge to risk management, and I want us to say this, and I'm going to ask most of you to tell us if you have been involved in risk management in your organization, to actually tell us any challenge or issue that you think is major that you can share with us, apart from the challenge that the MIT Sloan Management Review and Deloitte have found out in their research. You can share with us, because knowledge is continuum, knowledge is dynamic, it's never ending. What was true yesterday may not be true today. At least they did this research in 2015. Today, you can give us an experience, a case study, maybe in your own organization, where you can tell us that there is a major challenge to risk management that is different from what they've told us. Let me read out to you what this, because it's very important, because the issue and challenge in management, in risk management, is something all of us must know. You can be a risk manager, but you see, there is nothing you can do if you have a management that is reluctant. That is nothing. No matter how much, come and ask some of us. I'm a rock boater. In every organization I've worked, I am a rock boater. I rock the boat. I'm a boat rocker, sorry. I rock the boat. But you'll always find out that you'll be defeated. Because, first of all, you fail to capture the fact that risk management is fundamentally a successful project to the extent that you are able to get top support from management, real support, not lipstick supporting. Because most organizations, corporate governance, we are managing, they write their book of account, their financial account, you see it there, corporate governance, we apply with ethics, this and this. Most of those things are just window dressing. You and I know. Let's be real to ourselves as governance professionals. If we are outside, we may not be able to say this, but all of us here, we are all governance professionals. We must know our problem. And I must not be shy, I must not shy away from telling you the reality. The real risk in the organization is management. It's just like in Nigeria, everybody is talking about corruption, corruption, corruption. Why is corruption progressing in Nigeria? Is it because Nigerians are corrupt? They say, yeah, it's because Nigerians are corrupt. No. Corruption is progressing in Nigeria because of the body language of the leader. If you have a leader whose body, what people do, eventually people who are very smart politically in every organization, even in government or in politics, is that when they get to anywhere, they look at the leader. They read the body language of the leader. It's the body language of the leader that will tell them how they are going to, what they are going to do. If the body language of the leader is, Mr. Man, I'm only telling the Nigerian people about corruption. Yeah, I'm not here for corruption. I'm not here for fight against corruption. Forget what I say to the people. That's to the people. You want to make money. You want to steal money as much as you can. They may not say it, but their body language will let them know. So some of the people that are close, their ministers and everything, once they see that that's the body language, they follow suit. They'll go out ostentatiously, cosmetically. They will always be telling you, "Oh, we are fighting against corruption in Nigeria. There is no say no to corruption." But they have read the body language of the president or taking a lipstick. It's only a lipstick approach to corruption. The same way it happens in the organization. There is an approach in which they tell you they want a top risk manager, a solid risk manager to manage their risk in the organization, but it's not. In fact, most of the times, is to make you a scapegoat. If you're a legal person or compliance person, they're just looking for somebody to make a scapegoat. They are not interested. But when there is a problem, they want you to come in. If you cannot solve the problem, then you will not be the scapegoat, because they will say, they have a compliance manager. He was the one, he didn't tell us. Meanwhile, you were shouting, but they will tell you, they will even tell you don't document. Why sometimes you are writing memo. They will tell you, why can't you walk to my office? Why are you always writing memo? And then you'll be, yes, because they don't want you to document some of those things. So your ability to survive in organization to a large extent is about politics, how you can play politics. I'm not saying that there are no organizations that are not fully, they are not solid in governance. They are. There are organizations, even in Nigeria. I can name some of them that are very good governance-wise, but I'm talking about majority of organizations in Nigeria. Corporate governance is just an ostentatious tool of selling their brand or reputation. It's the truth. They are just pretentious about it. In their action, in their behavior, even in the way they treat their employees, you will see that they are far from it. So this is the major challenge. Every person who wants to be a governance professional in an organization, whether you're a legal advisor, you are a risk manager, you are an auditor, you must first of all understand that the major challenge in the organization is management. MIT Sloan, in collaboration with Deloitte, conducted in 2015 its fourth annual global study involving more than 4,800 top business executives and analysts from top organizations around the world. The survey captured insights from top guys in 129 countries. MIT Sloan Management Review and Deloitte identified strategic thinking and proactive risk management as a key driver of business performance and corporate success. However, you know, they said the only thing that can make any company to succeed financially in terms of bottom line is strategic thinking and proactive risk management. They have advised these are the key driver of business, and it's the truth. Strategic thinking, how are we going to manage money? How are we going to make money? How are we going to enter the business? How are we going to beat our competitors? How are we going to sustain this competitive advantage? That's strategic thinking. Proactive risk management is that in as much as you want to make money, as you are trying to make money, risk is there. As you want to score, somebody wants to score you. That's a fact. As you are setting up your technology, there are hackers who are waiting for you to set up your technology. They will hack and move your money out. Today we are hearing of USSD code and all this thing. But don't you see at the other time how Yahoo boys can use this same USSD code to take out money? Today we talk about agency banking. You see Paga, a lot of Paga and everything. Now they are using this Paga, all these agents to do fraud. I had to be in Alagbon about 2 months ago to help somebody out of bail because the Paga agent collected cash from the guy. Paid cash to the guy and collected money and did the transfer to the guy. The guy went to go and use fraudulent ATM card to take money from somebody's account. He took the money. Now he went to go and pay Paga agents. And the Paga agent took the money and then transfer the money after taking small commission to the guy. They arrested him, the Paga agent, because it's a breach of compliance regulations. How can you just take money from somebody you didn't know? It's just like a bank. You walk into a bank now. You can't just pay into account. If you pay money to account without doing KYC, they're going to say, give us everything, give us references, give us your house address. They're going to do due diligence. If you don't do that, and then you open an account or put money, you'll be arrested. It's imprisonment, money laundering, and CFT infraction. So the same thing some of these Paga agents are doing, they don't know because, the labor market is not good. So everybody is rushing to the Paga business, but they are not looking at the risk. Some of them now, police will arrest them. They spend after 6 days, 1 week, because we as lawyers, we insist that you cannot keep them in the ground for more than 48 hours at maximum. That's what the law says. As long as the person has not committed capital offense. That's the only thing. But when they want to, even in spite of our insistence as lawyers, police will still collect money from them. And said sometimes they will still say they should make deposit. That deposit refunded, they will say commitment deposit. They will not get it back. It's like police will share the money. So these are the realities in the organization. That in as much as you want to make money, business is about making money. Don't forget, I've told you, it's risk. It's about also every money making is risk. Every money making is risk. Like everything is risk. So once you have this mentality, you will agree with IT Slot. They said the key driver of any business performance is strategic thinking and proactive risk management. Anybody disagree with that, you're on your own. We have looked at it. We are scholars. We have looked at it. Is it possible? Can there be any other thing they need to do? We didn't find, and we agree with them. However, they observed that the history of technological advance and competitive growth in business is littered with stories of companies focusing on technologies on business performance without investing in organizational capability. We agree with them 100%. If you see many banks, many organizations today, everybody wants to be driven by technology. In fact, the madness for technology, the hunger is always like, everybody believes, the organization believes that once I'm not driven
my processes with technology, it means you are backward. That is the truth. Agreed. You must drive your processes with technology. If you are not doing that, even if you are driving it with technology and not updating it, you are backward. You cannot sustain the competition in the market. It's the truth. Technology is a very key source of competitive advantage. We all know that. But what MIT Sloan is saying here is that all of them is rushing. Technology, technology. Business performance, we want to make more money. You know, they're investing in marketers. They're investing in marketers. If you see any business want to come out now, if you see an advert, a company is coming out, the first people they will be looking for are actually IT and business marketers. After they've taken those ones, they've started business, they will now, something will happen. They will now remember to start, we need legal lawyer. Now we need risk manager. Now we need auditor. We always watch it. Any business when they want to start, because they will tell you, I can't take all these people because I'm just starting my business. I've not made money. I cannot pay a lawyer salary. I don't need that risk. Those risks will not happen. I've not started. They are remote. So the only people they are investing money is, okay, I need IT. Even IT, it's only small, 1 or 2. Forgetting that IT risk is a very great risk, especially in a bank. You can have the best IT. When hackers hacking, you will know. They will mess you up with technology. A lot of fraud are happening. We're all seeing now what is happening in everywhere about how people can use technology. The same technology you can use to drive business, to make money, to give wow experience to your customer. That same technology can be used to mess you up. So IT Sloan and Deloitte are saying now that what organizations are doing that right from the first day, they will not invest in organizational capabilities and risk and legal risk control. In fact, most of the time when they want to now take a lawyer, when they say, oh, we need a lawyer, they'll be looking for Jeku-ready lawyer. I'm sorry for using that language. 2 years, you see them, they say 2 years experience because somebody can pay 50,000 and 70,000 per month. That's the truth. It's only a big organization that we say, when you see the advert, they say minimum of 10 years. Organization that just merge and they have become bigger. They know that they need a lawyer that is very experienced. They'll say, okay, minimum of 10 years, 15 years. But in most organizations, even when they are 5 years old or 10 years old, when the moment they resolve to take a lawyer, they first say 3 years, 2 years experience. How can you tell me 2 years, 3 years experience come and be your company secretary and legal advisor in your company? What experience is it going to be? So, but because they just want to have a window dressing lawyer, we have a legal department too. We have a lawyer so that people can respect them. They're not interested in the quality of the risk management they're going to do. So that's what MIT Sloan is saying here, and I've seen it happening. I've looked at it from experience, and I think you too will share with me, except some people have anything you can share that is contrary. Fine, we are ready to learn, and that's the essence of here. We will add your case study to this, if we are convinced. So the many failed implementation of enterprise resource planning and even business growth in many companies are classic examples of poor attention to risk management. Is the truth? Because the organizations didn't build capacity, cultures, and risk management behaviors that fostered technology change and desired transformation. I want anybody to tell us any other view, or maybe something more collaborative to this view that we can use and say, okay, you can even help us to stretch in what we have said. Let me go back a little bit so that you can see what MIT Sloan have just said about the importance of risk management and the greatest challenge in risk management, which is management stance. The body language of your management is what drives. As a risk manager now, if I go to anybody, or as a lawyer, as company secretary, or head of compliance, if I go to any organization, the first thing I would do now to survive, I will first of all look at what is the body language. I will first have to understand the body language of my management. Who is management I'm talking here? Either the chairman or the MD, depending on the structure or the size of your organization. It's the body language that will tell me how I'm going to do it. If I see that it's just you know, let's just do what we call cosmetic risk management. 90% of managers in organization believes in cosmetic risk management. It's only when there is problem that they will now start focusing on risk management and now see risk management as critical and significant when there is problem. As long as there is no problem, as long as they are making money, the money is flowing in, they don't see risk management as anything. And even sometimes when the risk manager or the auditor or the chief compliance officer is coming to tell them about certain things, that this money we are making, oh, we should slow down. They will say, Mr. Man, can you tender your resignation? Please, can I have your resignation by tomorrow's morning? If you cannot align with the culture of this organization. So most times the culture of the organization is always driven towards making money at the expense of managing risk. It's just like a team. I've given this example. Always have this example. Is the easiest example you can have. It's just like a team. They have a number of attackers. They are focusing only on scoring football. Yes, you can succeed most of the time, but the day you are going to meet a team that is also that has a large number of attackers like your own, or even more, you are going to be in trouble if you don't have a strong defense or a good goalkeeper. So you can be succeeding. So most of the time they get dissuaded by they get carried away, let me see, by megalomaniac fantasy. Let me use the word of Charles Sandy, megalomaniac fantasy. We've been succeeding. This is the way we have been doing it. Mr. Man, you cannot tell us how we are going to succeed in this business. 10 years I have started this business. We have been doing it, we have been succeeding. So you cannot tell us because you are one risk manager or one chartered secretary or one lawyer of Kiniko. You want to tell us that this is not, we should stop it. So this megalomaniac fantasy always, make them get carried away to believe that they will always succeed. Forgetting that one day, it's just like a driver who is always overtaking small cars and is succeeding anytime he travels on highway. You forgot that one day, it will not be a small car, it may be a trailer or a truck. And how are you going to survive? So the fact that you have been succeeding in breaching the law does not mean that it's the right thing. Because like we said, like we have analyzed, one major risk that escalated or accrued or crystallized in the organization, one risk, one breach of law or regulation can mess you up. And we can see how it always messes MTN up. Even if MTN should consolidate all their subsidiaries in other countries or African countries together, they may not be able to pay what the Nigerian government, the regulators, the NCC, the National Communications Commission, sanctioned them with at that time. So always know this: if you are a risk manager, legal advisor, company secretary, governance professional, or whatever, your first risk manager, your first risk item in the organization, which you first of all have to manage for you to succeed in your risk management, is management. And when I say management, top management, either the MD or the chairman or the owners of the business. Those is the truth. So you need to understand the challenge and the issue in risk management, that this is the major issue. If there is any of us who want to add something here or want to say something, please feel free before I move to the next slide.
Any contribution, participants?
Maybe Mr. Gigi, maybe sometimes to help some of us, some of them, we can be saying that in within the maybe some people should be putting on video. I guess some people speak, some people sleep, some people get debated, and it won't make any sense, Well, if they don't concentrate, although we don't care as long as they have paid our money, but sometimes also we also want the knowledge to be useful.
The only contribution so far is a chat commending your insightful presentation. Any other contribution? Any contribution, participants?
Yes. Good afternoon once again.
Good afternoon.
Yes, Mr. Lagun, thank you very much for your presentation. It's been extremely insightful. As opposed to, giving an addition, I would rather want to seek a bit of clarity in understanding. Your last comments around the key importance and the key role, of a risk manager, a legal advisor, a company secretary, or governance, officer or executive, is to understand and manage the chairman or the MD or the group chief executive officer, depending on the structure that obtains in different organizations. Yes, when you say we should manage them, my point is I need to understand and seek clarity to the extent of the management you're speaking to here. I understand very much that, yes, coming on board in the organization, the first thing is to understand the internal workings and the structure of that company in order to even know the risk that are, the risk on ground to enable you know how to manage and prefer, mitigants to those risks. But again, I'll just need you to just explain a bit more how to, manage instead of hierarchy, the key officers of that company.
Well, I've told you how to manage it. I said, first of all, when you enter the organization, be suspicious of the fact that most times, as risk manager or as control functions, most of the time, let me look at it, you are a bulk carrier. That's the truth. Even, you see, the marketers, the business face people, what they want to do most of the times is to, if they can avoid you, they will have avoided you because they know you will stop the transactions. But because the policy of the transaction or procedure, said they have to come through you for sign off. That's why they have come. They don't like legal. They don't like audit. They don't like risk control. They don't like, because they believe you guys are showstoppers. That's the truth. You two will have experienced this. Yes. But they pretend to like you because sometimes they pretend to like you. They're coming to you because, of course, they have no choice. So they have to manage you too. And then you get their sign off. Now, if you get too rigid, some of them will find a way to go to top management to tell them, because they're the one bringing the money. So most times management will listen to them. You are not bringing the money. It's only when a problem happens that the management will ask you, legal, what happened? Chief compliance officer, what is the problem? Why did we have this problem? Why are we being sanctioned? Why are we being writing? Why is somebody writing us? In fact, when they are doing management quarterly review, have you ever seen in banks, in most organizations, when they are doing quarterly review, they don't call legal people or back office support or support. It's people who are going to bring the money. How much have you brought? What's your target? Did you meet your target? It's about target review, financial target. So, but don't let me try to stress that. What I have told you, I said, is to, when you come in, watch the body language of the leaders in the organization. There, they may tell you when they put out the Harvard, they will tell you we are looking for a solid, well-experienced auditor, chief clinical compliance officer. They will tell you that. But when you come in, you will see many problems. A lot of people have, excreted so many, and what they want is they want you to perform magics to clean the whole mess for them. Fine, which is something you should do as a professional. You should master the capacity to clean mess, because that's what people do. That's why we are there. As lawyers, if a criminal comes to you, he's coming to you to say, Mr. Man, I have breached law, but how are you going to save me? Nothing. That's why we are lawyers. So nothing is wrong there. That the organization, a lot of shit have been, but you have to come and clear the mess. But what about when you're now saying, let's stop this mess? There are a lot of mess on ground that is going to take us a lot of energies, time, and resources to clear. So let's stop the mess. So you bring in a policy to stop the mess, but they don't want it. That's the first point. those marketers, the business face people will see, look at all these people. What is all this thing they are doing? It is only if the MD supports you that you will succeed. I don't know if you have this experience. The marketers don't like people who are doing business because they want to meet their own target. They are driven by target. And anybody who is driven by financial target don't like windows and doors or padlock. They want to be free because they want to make money. And they're also on pressure. And that's a fact. Now you are the one who is the goalkeeper, you know, to make sure that the money we are making, you're not going to sell it as liabilities or as penalties to regulators or to a customer who has won a case against us in the future. That's your own function. So you are bringing in certain policies, certain processes in place. Now, when they see that these processes become an impediment for them, they will start complaining. It is only the cultural disposition of the MD that will make you to succeed. Because you will see a situation where sometimes the MD will call you and say, Mr. Man, I'm looking for value creator and not value destroyer. I say, what do you mean, sir? Say, I'm looking for those people who will come in here to even make us to make more money. When you are bringing in process that will not allow us to make money, those my marketers are leaving. You are already in problem. What happened? You will also want to, you know, you need to yourself because you have to save your job. The labor market is not good. The economy is not friendly. You need to survive on your job. So these are the tensions. I'm only trying to tell you the tensions you need to manage. You cannot fight your management as long as you want to sustain your job because they are the one paying your salary. You cannot also be more Catholic than the Pope because they are not the owner of the business. They only take you. So if you are giving them too much problem and you can't do this, they will send you out and take another person. And because a lot of people will take your job. Even charter secretary will take your job. They will tell him, the old man who is there, this is what he doesn't do. You say, don't worry, he doesn't know the man. You promise them because you need job or you need a greener pasture. So even our governance, being a governance professional, does not really make us that we have one approach. It doesn't give us one approach that, okay, if they are calling every charter secretary will still be behaving the same thing. They will change. But a new charter secretary, when it comes, you even teach them what they will do to preach the law. Sometimes a lawyer, sometimes it's just like lawyer. You see some lawyers, they are the one who teach the politicians what they will do. The same lawyer who are saying that they are activists, they are fighting for human rights. When they catch criminals, when they catch murderers, they will be the one to go and do some mago in the courts. That is, we are not criticizing that. That's the way of life. You have to face the reality. But what I'm saying is that the first thing, if you're a risk manager, understand the body language so that you don't, you see, there are two rules in the organization. There is the routine rules and there are the unwritten rules. The written rules are those ones we write, but most times the unwritten rules are supreme. They are the real rules. Those are the body language of your management. They can have a policy that says that we are committed to corporate governance, but they may not in real sense. Their behavior may not align with all those things in the policy. They only with the dressing. So you are not going to be driven away by that, because you have to balance between ethics and governance and also your survival in the organization. So it's left for you. That one, nobody can teach you that. But we can teach you to let you see where the problem is. That in many organizations, where there is failure in risk management, the problem is not really about the risk manager. But I'm telling you, I'm not saying there are no risk manager that deviates or that are incompetent or that they get disloyal to the company and all those things. There are, but they are few. In most cases, most risk managers are just the product of the top management culture, unwritten culture or body language. Most risk managers, it's just like legal advisors. Sometimes I've been in an organization, I've given an advice, and I have a solid position for my advice. And then because the chairman does not agree to it, he calls somebody, a son. And when he called the son, because the son understands the politics, and because the son is making millions from the company, because he got his brief from the organization, he gives them a contrary position that they will like, because the man is an old man. He understands these people more than some of us. Some of us are only looking at what is on book. The man is an old man, and you understand what this man, he knows the problem. He knows he's an entrepreneur. He knows the mentality of an entrepreneur, and he tells him, oh, this is so there's a way he puts it to him to look sweet to him. And the man say, look at you. You see now, look at the sun. Do you want to tell us you know more than the sun? So next time, what are you going to do? Because you don't want to be rubbish, you will take a middle plane, because you are working alongside with the body language of your chairman, because you want to keep your job as well. But because there are situations, and that's where I need to also tell you to be careful also, in as much as we are telling you to manage your management, manage your top management. There are situations where as a professional, you just have to take a decisive action and leave. That is as a matter of last resort. When you feel that if you continue, if the organization continues like this, it's going to be in trouble. Or if it's not in trouble, you are likely going to be the scapegoat, because the problem keeps mounting. The problem keeps mounting every day and every day. And then you know one day something will happen, something is going to erupt, and somebody will say, what happened? They will say, what they will say is, go and call the legal man. That's always what they happen. They say, we have a legal advisor. And then they will say, oh, but you are here now, guy. Why don't you advise them? So sometimes when you see some of these problems and you feel that you may not be able to survive, and then it might affect your profession, your professional integrity, and even your survival in the long run. Sometimes you lose a job, you stay at home for 3 months, you move to another job in another 2 months. There's nothing bad about that. But there are times when certain things will happen because you don't want to leave your job. You allow it to happen and they messed you up. And then CBN, for example, if you are working in a bank, you understand what I mean. Absolute loyalty, you should not do it. Absolute loyalty. You as a control manager should not do it in an organization. You should give your management loyalty. It's very key, because everybody loves loyalty, even me, even you. We all love loyalty. We like people to be loyal to us. So the same people, they also want you to be loyal. But don't give them absolute loyalty. What I mean is this. Don't give them a blindfolded loyalty that everything they want is what you do. Then you'll be in trouble. Otherwise, why are you a chartered secretary? Otherwise, why are you a lawyer? So that's why we say we should manage them. It's just about ability to balance the scale. Manage them, manage their idiosyncrasy, their character, inclination, their body language, but at the same time, be mindful of your job as a governance professional so that you don't lose both.
Your credibility and integrity, yes. Thank you very much. Agree? Yes, I do.
Okay. Thank you very much. So I can go to the... So we can now go to the... That is all we have done now is the first phase, which is for us to understand the fundamentals, which we have done properly. Now is go to risk management. And now when we are talking about risk management, because we have already agreed that risk management is not a new thing. It has always been with human beings. Since human being has been created, we have been managing risk. So, but what we want to have is effective risk management. A risk management that aligns with modern realities. A risk management that is not just theoretical, that is practical and pragmatic. That is what we are looking for. That's what we are here. If all of you are here, it's not as if you don't know about risk management. It's not as if you don't know what is risk. It's not as if you have not heard about risk management, or you are even managing risk. Since you have been a child, you've been managing risk. You have been managing risk. The only thing we may not have documented the processes or the procedure or the tactics or the techniques we use, but we know it often that we have been managing risk, and we know that sometimes this is what we do. We get proactive. Sometimes we itemize the list. We say, okay, this one we go. We do opportunity cost. We do scale of preferencing. It's all us. That's it. So we are trying to look for an effective management tool which you can take away that will make this course worthwhile, not that theoretical. Otherwise, you just go, well, risk management, fine, everything is risk. We all have to manage risk. Risk is continuing. In fact, to a large extent, it's not avoidable. It's always happening. The moment you solve one risk, another risk will generate. That's it. But how do we now manage risk effectively? The traditional risk management, I've already said it before, I'm not going to say too much. It's all about the exclusive approach. Risk is a devil. Avoid it. We don't want risk. Risk avoidance. Most approaches in the traditional risk management is to see risk as an enemy, as something that is not good, as something that can be avoided. Then it is individual focused. Oh, you can manage your risk in an organization, for example. It's individual focus. It's your own wahala. Your risk is your own wahala. For example, somebody is a lawyer in legal department. Why didn't you look at this thing when it happened? It's your problem. But anybody who understands enterprise risk management or integrated risk management, according to Emilia Facile, will appreciate the fact that a legal problem, a legal risk, is a risk to the whole organization. It's not just a problem of the legal department. A mistake of the company secretary may not be a problem of the company secretary alone. It may be a problem of the whole organization. So it's not, in the traditional risk, it is individual focus. And it is pest-based and reactive. Pest-based. Hello? So in the traditional risk management, it is pest-based and reactive. You know, pest, what we call pest. Pest is how you measure or try to tackle the environment, political, environmental, social, those things. But when you look at integrated risk management, which is the modern approach, which is the contemporary approach, because there is now a paradigm shift, is that risk is a friend to optimize. You can't avoid risk. So take that away from your mind first. If you're a good risk manager, you can't avoid it. It's not a risk, it's not a devil. You have to face it. It's a friend. It's part of life. So you see, if you know, the moment you know something is unavoidable, what do? You cooperate with it and try to understand it and find a way to effectively manage it and optimize it. Turn it to your advantage. That is it. It is foolhardy to be fighting what is unavoidable. It's just like somebody saying, I don't want to die. You are fighting death. You are stupid. Exactly, the more you are growing old, you are still fighting death. You are fighting death. You are stupid. It means you have not learned anything. That's the truth. You will see every time you wake up, you see death as a friend. And I will tell you how to see it. And that is the way you also see risk as a manager. Because no matter how you manage risk, it will happen. No matter how, it will happen. So it's about risk optimization, how we can minimize it, lower it to the barest possible. That's all. Not to avoid it, or not to say it will never happen, or not to prevent it. And not just people to minimize it. We can optimize it. Sometimes you can make risk to become an opportunity. You can turn risk, a risk items. Some people who are very smart, who are who are genius. You see the way they turn things that everybody has condemned as bad. They will turn those things to something beneficial. The same thing, risk can be turned to something you can optimize in an organization. Enterprise focused, unlike individual focus, is a risk is a problem of everybody in the organization. Everybody in the organization manages risk. That's one. Another enterprise focused way of managing risk is that even as you as a legal person, you want to manage the risk. It's not only your law, it's a legal advisor, or even you're in practice. As long as you have a client, and then it's only the case that you're looking at. The case that your client gives you, they are looking at as the focus of your risk management. You have to also understand your client. What kind of a client is this? What does he want? What does he like? Is this client financially stable? Can he pay my money? Is this client trustworthy?
Sorry,
you have to manage, even as a lawyer in practice.
Sorry, Mr. Magumi. Yes. Sorry to cut you short. Just to let you know that we are really running out of time, so that you can speed up, so that we can end.
Oh, I am happy for that. You multiply my money, because it means I have added more. That's good. When you're saying that, I've you know, before some people will just do and then go. But now I've taken my time. Okay, fine, I will do that. So,
okay, thank you.
SWOT-based and proactive. SWOT-based and proactive is SWOT. You know what they call SWOT? Do we know what is meant by SWOT? So, SWOT is strength, weakness, opportunity, threats. Even everybody is, you have to do your own SWOT analysis. You yourself, you have to be able to do your SWOT analysis every year. These are my strengths, these are my weaknesses, these are my opportunities, and these are the threats. So the risk, the way of managing integrated risk management is SWOT-based, it's not PERS-based. PERS-based is external. PERS-based is always looking at risk as something that is external and that has to be externally managed. Whereas integrated risk management is looking at risk from SWOT perspective. It's internal, but I have to start for myself. You have to do a SWOT analysis of your own department. If you're a legal, first of all, your own department, you do your SWOT analysis. You now also do an enterprise focus. If you're a legal person, you do not just, you don't look at legal risk or compliance risk only from the angles of regulations. You look at it from the angles of all the value chain activities of the organization. HR, you itemize all the value chains. HR, product, operations, market. What are the legal? You now itemize each of them. Let me go to the next so that we don't waste time. I will, at least we've understood what effective risk management is about, as different from traditional method. Now, this is what we call risk management process. This is a process. There's no other process anybody's going to give you. It's very important that you must understand this process before you now go to the tools, the techniques. The first is risk identification. Just like we have said under integrative risk management, is that you must identify all the risk, whether small, whether it's significant, small or low. Put them, list them out. Draw a table for them in form of a checklist or a register, what we call risk register. Then you have identified all the risk in your organization. Don't say because I'm a legal person. There are legal risks in HR. There are compliance risks in HR. There are compliance risks in operations. There are compliance risks. It's not only in regulatory compliance. Every aspect of the value chain of the activity are risks. So as a risk manager or compliance, identify all the risks first in the organization, whether they are legal or compliance. That's what we are saying. Because this is what will make you to properly be able to have a dashboard, a full dashboard of all the risks that even you as a legal and compliance person have to manage. Evaluate their possible impact. This is the assessment. Once you identify all the risks, you must now evaluate them. This evaluation is about rating them. You have to say, this particular, this risk, is it possible that it's going to happen? What is the possibility? Well, possibility means, is it remote or quick? Is it going to be frequent or occasional? Some risks are occasional. They will only happen once in a blue moon. So you will list them. But it's a huge risk, like COVID-19. COVID-19 will happen once in a blue moon. It will stay with us forever. So many other risks like that happens once, but they will be huge. They will be significant. You can see a lot of people that died during COVID-19 in US, in Britain, in Go. It happens once in a while. But it can be huge. So you must itemize, evaluate all of them, their impact, classify them, and prioritize. In terms of frequency, we will come to that, but I'm letting you understand. We're still going to see the risk register, risk mapping, and risk rating. But for you to understand, so that when we get there, we won't waste time, is that identification of risk and assessment is the first step. Identify all your risks, list them out. Don't say one risk is insignificant. A risk may be insignificant, but it can happen every day. So an insignificant risk that happens frequently can be a big risk. By the time you do the risk rating, you do the multiplication, it's a small risk, but it happens every day. By the time you do it, you will find out if it's not high, it will be medium. Then it's something to check for. And a risk may not happen every day, but it may happen one in a day, but it will clear everything you've made in 30 years. Everything you have labored for as a company or as an individual. We have seen it happen. We have seen it happen. Somebody have labored all those years, the one risk we kill everything. That happen one in a day. So though it will not happen frequently, it happens once in a blue moon, but it will be a significant risk. It will be high because it's a risk that if it happens, it can destroy everything that we have labored for. So you must be able not just to identify all the risks, you must classify them by rating them in terms of frequency, in terms of their frequency, in terms of their significance, in terms of their effect, the consequence, even though they may not be frequent. But what about the consequence? What about their impact? There are some risks. They will not happen frequently. Their impact is also very low. Then it will be low risk because low impact, low frequency is a low risk. But high impact, low frequency is a high risk. Low frequency, high frequency, low impact is also sometimes medium. Some will fall to high. It depends on the organization. So it's not a linear thing, but you will do the multiplication yourself. The first is we are going to give you the techniques to use. If we had gotten more time, we will have done a practical session. If it were like a 2-day training, when I did for them at Westgate, at least a 2-day training. So first day we did a practical session for the risk rating and the risk mapping, because this is what will help us. Is to a large extent mathematics. You can put mathematics to it. Some arithmetic is there, so that because you are going to do the rating, and the rating is in terms of their frequency and their impact. Now, once you have done this, you have a dashboard. You can always be looking and be watching those risks. The next is be followed by risk control and mitigation. Now I've identified all the risks. I've seen those ones that are very huge. I've seen those ones that have significant impact. I've seen those ones that are low. I've seen those ones that are medium. I have them. I can see them. I have prioritized them. So I will keep my eyes on the high and the medium. The low, I will also keep my eyes on them, but not as much because their impact is low. They won't even happen all the time. Even if it happens, no wahala much. So I'll have to do that first. Then you now ask yourself, how are you going to control them? You see, the result you have from the risk assessment, from the way you map them, when you are prioritizing them, you grade them. Is it low? Is it medium? Is it high? It's also what will tell us whether it's going to be how we are going to control it or mitigate. If a risk is a huge one, if a risk is a very huge one, if the impact is huge, if it's something that is disastrous, it's going to destroy you or the organization if you're not careful. It means you have to give it much attention in terms of if avoidance, and if you now ask yourself, if it cannot be avoided, can I accept it? Yes, I can accept it. If I accept it, how can I exploit it? Exploitation is how can you even exploit a risk? Do you know, for example, everybody is talking about risk, COVID-19. Everybody is running into their house. Some people are not going to work. Some people are shouting, hunger is killing my family, no money to eat. That is the time some people became millionaire. Is there anybody who is disagreeing? Hello? Are they there?
Any comments?
Agreed.
When COVID-19 happened, as significant, as huge as COVID-19, some people ran into the house. They didn't go out because they don't want to be infected. Some are not going to work. Some are even shouting, there is no food, we are dying. That is the time some people made their money because they optimize the risk. Some were a lot of people, I know a tailor who within 1 month became a millionaire by making, he quickly roll out local nose mask, and we're selling it to companies. And you know, Nigerian, we are corrupt. The one that they can buy for 5 naira, they inflate 15 naira for their company, and the company were buying, they made money. That is optimization of risk. Those are the people who have understood the secret that sometimes not all risk you run away from. You have to optimize them. You have to take advantage of them. And a lot of companies actually took advantage of COVID-19 because you see many banks now find out that they didn't even need as much as many employees they have, because virtuality became People have been talking about virtuality. ICSAN have been talking about virtuality. I remember when I even did my ICSAN exam in 2005. That was in corporate administration. I don't know whether there is technology and virtuality. The topic, a chapter in my module. And they keep talking about, you know, virtual workplace. Since then, nobody knew COVID-19 will happen. But a lot of people took advantage. And they saw the advantage of do we even need a lot of people to be going to office? A lot of people can work from home as long as you have your laptop and you have your internet working. So that COVID-19 brought a lot of optimization to a lot of organizations in terms of even resources, how they manage their employees, their overheads. A lot of companies, a lot of banks, the results are glaring. See, many banks declare more profit during COVID-19 when there was no business, when people were not moving out. How come they declare more profit than even when there was no COVID? Because work was going on, a lot of them leverage on technology and virtuality. That is optimization. That is risk optimization. But a lot of companies closed down. A lot of them shut down. A lot of them could not pay salary. They were not running. Meanwhile, some were taking advantage. That is what we mean by risk optimization. Exploit it. Some will say, I may not be able to exploit all of them. So what do? I would diversify my risk. Just like if you want to invest, you have 100 million. You put all your 100 million. I have done it before. Because I didn't apply risk control. I put all my life savings in a oil bunkering business. Of course, if it had worked out, today, Mr. Ojiji will not be calling me to come and do training. Because I will have been one of the biggest boys in town. If it had worked out, because it was a big risk. It was a stupid risk. It was a stupid risk. Because I put everything in that, believing that it will work out. Then it failed. Then I was almost going to the level of extinction. But if I had diversified that portfolio, my risk portfolio, put that part of that money in something else, put part of the money, I think like 3 places. If that one failed, I will have had some to leverage on. That is diversification. It's a very important process of risk management. Everybody must know. Don't put all your egg in one basket. Sometimes people do it. It works. But when it fails, ask yourself, what about if it fails? Will I call myself fool or wise? It's foolishness. So share. So after that, the next stage of risk control and mitigation is you share your risk, either by alliance or partnership or by cooperation. Some people may say, how do you share risk? Don't you see organizations that match? They match. Why do you think they match? Because one of them has something the other one does not have. So they need synergy. What is it that one of them has a risk he cannot manage? Either he doesn't have the strength or the tools or the resources to manage it. But the other person has it. Then the other person too believes this one has what I don't have. So they come together. So risk transfer, risk sharing is a good process also. So that when the risk happen, you're not the only one to bear it. You will share the risk. That's why some people do joint venture. That's why when they enter organization, transaction, some people do company instead of doing partnership or sole trader. In a sole proprietor, the risk in your business, when it happens, it is only you. You lose all your money in a sole trader. But today, in those days when we were small, a lot of people, they do sole trading because they don't want people to share their profit with them. Because they are not cognizant of the fact that business is risk. But they could do it because when you are doing small business, very small business, you can do that. But when you are doing a business that is growing, once your business is growing, you have to move from sole proprietorship to joint venture, either incorporated joint venture or whatever, so that you can have a lot of people to share your risk. Risk sharing is a critical way of control and mitigation of risk. Insurance. Don't ever have any acquisition, either in terms of assets, physical or monetary, without insurance. Insurance is very key. You must always ask yourself, anything you acquire, anything is insurable, go and insure it. Because when the risk catalyzes, the insurance will help. Just like you buy a new car. You feel, oh, the possibility of an armed robber snatching this from you is low. Fine, it's true. But what about if it snatches? And then you have taken a loan. Most of us are taking car loan today. So you buy a car that you're not even enjoying it, but you'll be paying the loan for another 4 years. So what does it make sense? Insurance. Because it may not happen. Because some people are so greedy that they feel that this risk will not happen. The insurance people they will take my money. What about if it happens? The another one is spiritualize. A lot of people have not understood this area, but some of us have written a book, what I call creative risk management. And I put spiritualization as a process. Apart from one other writer that brought it, which is Parker Potter, that talk about corporate social responsibility. But they didn't say it the way I have shared it, that organization must also act ethically, and then they must involve in corporate social responsibility as a way of managing risk. I call it spiritualization. Is that charity? When your organization involves in charity, when you make money, don't only pay tax, make part of the money and give it to charity. It takes away bad things, disaster from you as a human being. The same thing, a company is an artificial person, is a person, is an entity. So that's why some people, both people came out with the concept of corporate social responsibility. But they will have called it corporate social spirituality. And take the word responsibility, because when you put responsibility, it makes it like they are forcing us to do it. When people understand the concept of ethics, the spiritualization, spiritual values in ethics and corporate social or charity, giving people scholarship, helping the society as a company where you are making money, building roles, is because Oyibo people have understood their own spirituality. They may not be going to church, they may not be outwardly religious, but they observe spiritual principles in risk management because these things avoid disaster. They help to prevent disaster. And when even disaster happens, they have a way. There is always a miraculous way of how the disaster will not consume them. So spiritualization is a process of risk control and mitigation. Whistleblowing is a process of risk control. In corporate governance, you will see every code of corporate governance talk about whistleblowing now. Because we have a way that people should be able to escalate risk in the organization with confidentially and confidently. But people don't. People will see the risk. Everybody's afraid because you don't want to be classified as someone who is not a team maker or whatever, or as if you're anti-management. But whistleblowing should be a process you must put in the organization so that anybody see any problem, any risk, any hazard, they can quickly escalate and it can be quickly tackled. That's proactiveness. Whistleblowing is not a legal thing. It is actually a risk management process that should be internalized in the organization. But everybody sees whistleblowing as something that is hostile. Somebody will whistleblow about me. No, it's for the benefit of everybody. Somebody should escalate. It helps. So negotiate. When risk happens, you can negotiate your risk. At times to negotiate risk. We see it in some of the case studies. Implore. You can beg for help. Beg for help. Aren't you seeing during COVID-19, a lot of organizations, a lot of countries were begging for help. Nigeria was begging for help. Banks were begging for bailout. When some banks crashed in US, were they not asking for bailout? So what is wrong in begging for help? It is only in African society that people see when you are begging, they say the man is a beggar. The car company has turned beggar. There is nothing wrong. When you are already in crisis, there is no other solution. You implore, seek grant and aid. Bailout are part of principles. What does it mean? Is it not begging? You are saying I cannot go further, help me. And people here in Africa, we stigmatize them. But in abroad, they have a way of making it look like it makes sense. As long as you're not you're not lazy. But you're not lazy, you are working. But something happened that is beyond your control. We must help you. And if you cry out, there is nothing wrong. It's in Africa that you have been stigmatized. Risk monitoring and reporting. When you have done risk control and mitigation, you put all these processes in place. You must continue to monitor and evaluate. The reason why we need to do that is that, remember, under the first category, you have identified some risk as significant. You have identified some risk as very huge, significant risk. You have identified some as low. Let me tell you, COVID-19 may be a risk in 2019 and 2020. By next year, COVID-19 may not be a risk anymore. It's just like a time HIV was a risk. Who heard of HIV anymore now? So what was a risk? What was a huge risk in 2 years ago may not be risk again in next year or even this year. And you agree with me? Even when we are talking about COVID-19 outbreak now, they are talking about another type, not the COVID-19. COVID-19 is more or less like that one is gone, it's been managed. Now, if you are put it, COVID-19, you are put it as significant in 2019, it may not be significant again in 2021, going to 2022. It will become medium, even if you cannot say low, because there is still the possibility that it can regenerate. So you will put it, so you have to continue to reevaluate. You can't say, I have identified all my risks, I have classified them and prioritized them. That prioritization and classification have to be reevaluated continually and regularly, either quarterly or biannually or annually. Because some risks you identify as high may become low. Some that are not frequent may become infrequent because of some things that happen with either phenomenally or organizationally, or even state-wise or country-wise. So those are the processes. Now, when a big risk catalyzes, it is very important also to itemize the procedure and the processes. Is that you must have a contingency plan, and that contingency plan, what we call business continuity plan or disaster recovery plans, must be in your policy right from the first day. If you have a legal policy or compliance policy in your organization, and you don't have a section that talks about compliance risk management policy or legal risk policy, please go and do it now. You must have a section that is dedicated to risk management of what you are doing. And then you must have a strategy, a section, you must say this is the strategy we are going to use. And then you bring out all this strategy. You may not need to expatiate them, but you must itemize the strategy you want to use so that everybody in the organization will be at par. So contingency plan, business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, because there are times there will be disaster. How do you recover? There will be disaster in terms of your technology. Your system may crash. Your technology that you rely on, where every data of your customer may crash. It has happened. It has happened many years, even in great countries in US, who are the primogenitor of technology. So why would it not happen to we who are just imitator or copier? So, the disaster recovery plan must be there right from the first day. It's not when they happen or when the risk is about to happen that you start bringing in disaster. Where is our disaster recovery plan? Where is our business continuity plan? Where is our contingency plan? You must have it from the first day in your policy. That's why we say the first process is risk policy. Your risk policy must be there. If you don't have one now, please, as you leave this organization, this training, go to your organization and go and draft a risk policy in terms of legal and compliance risk. I know there will be risk management policy, but you must have a legal and risk management policy that we align with the overall risk management strategy of the organization, and also taking care of the peculiarities of legal and compliance risk while you are aligning, because the legal risk and compliance risks are peculiar because of their criticality. So you have to have some peculiar strategies which you are going to use, which is going to be different from the overall strategy of the organization, risk management strategy of the organization. So this is very important. So contingency plan, business continuity plan, disaster recovery plan, please ensure you have them. What about if you are working in a bank and all the CFO you are having are stolen, or something happened like a disaster or like a earthquake? What is your backup plan? So disaster recovery plan is actually talking about what's our backup plan. So you must make sure that all your data are backup, all your information data, all your manual, both hard copies and soft copies are backup somewhere. Hard copies must be kept somewhere, maybe in a bank or in another location. Soft, your technology must be kept up somewhere in a cloud, either in cloud. That's why we have cloud technology these days. So that anything happen, you can always retrieve all your information from the cloud. So those are the process. So like I have said, these are the tools that are not going to be used to use the process. Is about, first of all, is when you want to do a risk register, like we said, we should identify all the risks. The first thing is you look at your corporate risk profile. You can identify risk without having a corporate risk profile that is SWOT-based. All the department, all the value chain activities of organization, you list them out, like physical policy, equipment, you have assets, you have technology, you have IT capital, that's intellectual capital. All of them, you list them now, all your assets, both intellectual asset and physical asset. You list everything that is capable, every item, every value chain that is capable of affecting your organization, affecting your organization. Them out.
I mean, that's I say all time.
So when you now do that, when this is the corporate risk profile, now do that encapsulates all the risk. Then it is from there that you are now going to itemize or derive what are the risks or what are the legal and compliance risk. For example, HR. You now say HR legal risk. What are those risks in HR? Risk of HR policy, when your policy is defective. When an employee resigns, is a problem. When you have an employee manual that is not detailed. Because when you have an employee manual, you see a case where the National Industrial Court said that organization, every company, according to the Constitution, must follow labor practice, international labor practice. So it's not all about you saying something is not in my policy, because that's what employers used to do. They say the employee is asking for something is not in the employee policy or employee manual. They said your policy must capture the best practice as required by International Labor Organization. So if you're a legal advisor of a company, you should learn and ask what are the best practices in labor given by International Labor Organization, and incorporate them in your HR policy. So this is the corporate risk profile of the organization. Your customers, your business partner, your consultant, your product, your asset, everything, you must list them out. When you list them out, you now say what are their risks. You also list them out. So the first corporate risk profiling is the first process. Then you now have what we call risk register. The risk register is very important because it's what you are going to use as a checklist after you have done the corporate profiling. You've done the corporate risk profiling. Is that you will now identify the risk, list them out. Who are the risk owner? Who owns this risk? If it's in the legal department, if you have a legal department that you have a litigation section differently, you have a contract review section differently. The head of the contract review will be the risk owner for contract. The head of litigation will be the risk owner for disputes. So you identify the risk owner. You identify what are the relevant laws and regulations that govern me. What does the law say? What are the control procedures you have put in place? What are the contingency plan? That's the section for it. What is the mitigation action you are going to take? What is your plan response? Chances or likelihood. You see a column for chances or likelihood. Impact.
Let's take the next.
If the chances is low, but the impact is high, your response means that you have to give it a very tough response. So this is a risk register, which you must have. It's a very important tool of effective risk management in modern days. It's not on days when you wait for risk to happen. You identify all your risks, those potential and active and possible. Even those that are low and high, every day, and then you show their impact. This is the risk register. And this is how a risk register must look like. So if you don't have anyone, please do it. And if you have one, if it's not as detailed as this, please do. So this is risk register is what is going to be used to monitor the risk. You can demarcate them. For example, risk register, you can say contract risk register, compliance risk register, litigation risk register. Litigation register is different from litigation risk register. Litigation register is showing you have a case, this is the death date, this is the update, this is the lawyer who is handling it. Litigation risk register is talking about you are evaluating the possibility of you losing the case in court. We are evaluating the possibility that if you lose the case in court, what impact is it going to have on your bottom line? What impact is it going to have on your reputation? What impact is it going to have on your customers? So this risk register is important. You cannot say you're a risk manager if you don't have a risk register that is encapsulating and that doesn't show the likelihood, the chances, the impact, the response of every risk which you have identified.
2035.
Now, if you look at the risk register, you know, there is a place where we say, you tell us the risk impact, the chances of it occurring either low or real. So risk tools, the risk mapping matrix is what you are going to use to be able to show in the risk register whether it is high or low or medium. It is about this. Impact, if you look at where we put red, if you say the impact is going to be high, if this risk happens, it's going to have a high impact. But the incidence, the possibility of it happens, that's what we mean by incidence. The occurrence, the frequency, it may not happen. The possibility that it will happen is very low. But if it happens, it is high. It is going to be red. It means you have to keep an eye on it. It's a red flag. Serious. Anything red is serious. When it is green, you put it green when it is low or below medium. You can put it green. So it means you will be checking it, but you won't pay as much attention to it as the one that is high. And what are the ones that are high? Any one that has high impact, even though it has low incidence. That is, frequency is low, but the significant, the consequence is going to be huge. It's going to be disastrous. It's going to be high. Don't deceive yourself. Anyone that has high impact and high incidence is even more disastrous than, but they are all red. You must put them red. Low impact, low incidence, no wahala, but you still check it. Like, because we said it, we said something can be low today and it can become high impact tomorrow due to change in circumstances, because change is the only thing that is constant in life. So you still keep eyes on them, even though it's green, you will still be watching it because it can turn red. So that is risk tool and what you call risk mapping. So when you have done your risk mapping, then you come to risk assessment and evaluation. It's in your register, but because you cannot, in the register, it's not going to allow you, it's not going to be allow you to do the calculation or the evaluation. So you may now need to have another template, an Excel sheet. There are a lot of risk management technology software that you can use. So you don't need to do a lot of manual work. All you need to do is you just itemize, they will give you the software. It's already, the template are there, you buy them. You know, you can Google, all these things are no more skyrocket or magic anymore. You Google, there are a lot of technology software companies, even Lexicology have a lot of legal risk management software now, they are selling. So they will sell, you will look at, they will give you where you just impact. Once you put it, it will give you the result. You don't need for you to stress yourself. But at least it's first important for you, even if you are going to use technology software, for you to understand the technique. Because if you don't understand the rudiment, you don't understand the techniques, you cannot use technology. Technology is programmed. It's programmed based on certain rudiments. So you have to understand the rudiment for you to understand the technology. So that is the tools. There's no other tools you are going to use. We will summarize. When we get to a summary, you see the summarization of the tools. You know, why we need to look at some of the criticality and some of the case studies. All of us have heard about the story of the Titanic. At least we all watched the film Titanic. It's a real story. It's a real life story. It actually happened. And it's what happened in that film is all about risk management, failure. It was a famous ship that became infamous through bad risk management. The irony of the high-tech Titanic, it was built with high technology. It was the biggest, largest ship that ever built. And people who built it, they said when they built it, they were so confident. They said even God cannot sink it because of the monstrosity of the product of the ship. But the first day, their maiden voyage, it even say, okay, he spent 2 years, 3 years, you now say maybe there is a technical default or a mechanical fault, is what cost it. The first, they built it. They were so confident. The producer said, God cannot sink it because they've done everything they need to do. See how God works. To prove to human being that risk is a dynamic continuum. Risk is not something you boast of and say it cannot happen. Only a foolish man will boast that risk cannot happen. You are stupid. It's the first stupidity of risk management to say that a particular risk can never happen. So as a risk manager, Your mentality is that everything is risk and it can happen anytime and it will always be there. Even one that happened, another one will come. If we solve one, another one will come. That's the truth. April 14, 1912, she hit an iceberg and sank. Everybody in that place, only a few people were saved, lost their lives because there weren't enough lifeboats for everyone. What caused the disaster? Can some people tell me? We have seen what causes. Is it force majeure? Can you say it's force majeure or non-compliance?
Any response, participants?
Any quick response? Okay, don't let me waste time if there are no quick response. What caused it is not force majeure. It's non-compliance. Force majeure, of course, is something beyond our control. But force majeure itself is a risk that we ought to have managed. It's simple non-compliance. Because if they have complied with shipping rules and regulation, with sea rules, some of the sea rules and regulation is that when you are going on a voyage, everybody must have a lifeboat. It's just like today, when you are going on an airplane, they will provide everybody with everything you are going to use in case there is a disaster. They will not say, this plane is solid, the engineers have checked them, nothing can happen, the weather is good. They will not tell you because it's good, there is no lifeboat, there is no nose mask or oxygen mask or whatever. They provide it because we will know that risk is something that is beyond human being, no matter how much you have tried. So you should still have to try. And that's why they failed. If they have fulfilled the sea regulations of saying everybody, even though they are confident that this ship was well built, but they have thought about risk management and say, let everybody also go with a lifeboat. Some people, a lot of lives will have been saved. So, but because then people say what happened was force majeure, beyond what is beyond human control. No, some people said when we analyze very well, we said what happened was not force majeure. It wasn't beyond control because everybody's supposed to know that a ship that is on voyage is very likely to sink. That is the possibility, even though the possibility is low. Is remote. The incidence is low, but the disaster, if it happens, the impact is high, and we shall see it. Thousands of lives lost as a result of this occasion. The same thing happens with Fox Mayer. You must have heard about the story of Fox Mayer. That's one of the MD. It's one of the 5 of the biggest IT scares and failures everybody fear. When you read the story of Fox Mayer, you'll be afraid even to use technology. I know some people today, they don't use internet. You say, Mr. Man, you are not, you know, people will blame them. They say, thank you. When I want to withdraw, I go to bank. Because if I go to bank will not tell me that if my money miss, they don't know about it. But if I'm using ATM card or internet, they can deny and say that it's somebody else that used my ATM or I compromise my password. The man said no. And some of them will tell you because of the stories they've heard. Don't put so much reliance on technology. We have seen it. Some of us, we get careless with our phones. We get careless with our password. And many things, even in our workplace, we trust people. You give people your password. It's a very dangerous thing you are doing. You should only do it as a matter of last resort, maybe in a life-threatening situation. But some people always do trust. I've seen people that have gone to jail because they trust people, give them password. Oh yeah, I'm not at work. I'll give you my password. Quickly log in, retrieve that information. So some of the things that happen here is that Fox Mayer was the 5th largest drug seller in US with over $5 billion in annual sales. You can imagine. So they invested in an IT ERP project. These are some of the things, some of the case studies that IT Sloan did, and they found out that these are some of the problems organization made. They were so carried away. The MD was the chairman of the company, owner of the company, was so carried away with the ERP project. They forgot to take regulatory approval. How can you imagine that a whole Fox Mayer, you want to do an IT and ERP project, you do not go and take approval from the regulatory commission. They forgot to take statutory approval. That's first problem. They didn't carry people along. Perhaps even if they are carrying people along, some people, maybe the legal department or the regulatory department will have escalated and said, do we have approval for this change in technology that we do? Have we informed? You know, now in Nigeria, we have NIDA. We have the National Information Technology Development Commission. Yeah, everybody, every fintech, for example, if you're a fintech company or a technology company, you have to get their approval, you have to get their permit. So they forgot to go and take approval or permit for this project, which they ought to take. And they invested over $40 million. $165 million was budgeted. Everything was at a loss because of the fact that they did not get statutory approval. They didn't involve people. The end users were not involved. So when the project came on board, people could not use it effectively. Business went down because a lot of people could not align with the change in technology. You know, technology change is always a problem. Some people will be unfriendly, will find it very unfriendly. If you have involved the end users right from the beginning, give them adequate training, it will not have happened. If they are taking regulatory approval, perhaps the regulator itself will have asked them, have you trained people? Have you involved a lot of people who are going to be involved in this project? It was a loss. It was a big project. And Fox Mayer had to file for bankruptcy a few months later after this project. You can imagine a highly successful company, a company that was in $5 billion in annual sales in the US, can just crash within 3 months just because they went to go and do a monstrous project that failed because of failure of risk management. That's it. It's risk management failure. There's no other way. And that's why we say is the most, that's why IT Slot and even the Chartered Governance Institute of UK said that this is the most legal and compliance risk and the most dangerous risk and the quickest to insolvency. Are they not right? If you look at Fox Mayer's case, it's clearing and right. That a company that people thought that in another 20 years, this company cannot die. That is it. It's true. If you look at their books, if you look at the way they are performing and the way they were growing across the oceans, you will say Fox Mayer can never die. He died within 3 months. You might say we are using United States of America case studies. Nigeria, all of us, we are reading these papers. Some of us are there. In 2017, we had when SEC ordered Nigerian Stock Exchange to suspend trading of stock of Ohando PLC. How? As a result of complaints from 2 shareholders of insider trading and breach of related party transactions by the company's chairman. What is that? Is that not non-compliance? Non-compliance with stock exchange regulations, and perhaps maybe ISA regulations that talk about insider trading. And even it is one of the shareholders, some of the shareholders that even escalated and whistleblew and put the not outsider. If it were outsider now, you say they are your enemies. Shareholders. And what happened? Ohando had never become the same since then. 2016, the same thing, Stanbic IBTC, Financial Reporting Council of Nigeria, imposed a fine of 1 billion naira, that's $5 million, against Stanbic IBTC. In addition, it announced the suspension of several senior officials of the bank. If you remember the story, most of the senior officials from MD down to the risk manager, legal advisor, company secretary, all of them were suspended. What could damage an organization as that? Simply because they make a misstatement in their financial reports. Is that not risk management and compliance failure? Though the sanctions were eventually lifted, but there was a private agreement. It was not lifted like that. There have to be a settlement agreement within the bank and FRCN. And then they make some payments. They still make some payment. And then there was a damage because then a lot of customers were withdrawing their money during that period alone. Stanbic IBTC lost a lot of customers. So you can see some of the damages that have been caused by. The same thing happened with MTN. When 1.4 trillion naira, that's $5.2 billion by Nigerian Communication Commission, said they should go and pay because MTN failed the rules, the NCC rules on registration of SIMs. You know, everybody was to go and register their SIMs. They found MTN did not register some of their customer SIMs. That's all. That's what they did. And people say, why? Well, this kind of a small offense. What NCC said was that it's not. You think it's a small offense? Why would we say that people should come and register their SIMs? It's because we discovered that Boko Haram terrorists who are killing people, money launderers, criminals, are using phones to commit some of these crimes. And the only way we can trace them is that everybody should be registered. So that, though you can say it's just one offense, but it's a huge offense. So everybody kept quiet. Because the moment they met, Boko Haram, the fear of Boko Haram in Nigeria was the beginning of wisdom. So people say, it's true, you cannot pity this MTN. In fact, they've made so money in Nigeria. They cannot obey our law. So they lost even public sympathy. They were doing like this. They thought they can go to international court and everything. But the moment NCC told about Boko Haram, they lost even international sympathy because terrorism is a world offense. USA will not support anybody who is doing anything to encourage terrorism or criminal activities or money laundering. So they lost both Nigerians' local sympathy and international sympathy. So they have to come and beg. And after that, they have permitted them to pay 330 billion naira. Even 330 billion naira, is this more money? So they are feeling it. They will feel it. Because that is going to wreak a lot of havoc on their bottom line. If they had wanted to do some growth project, I am sure with this 330 billion they pay, they will have reduced their project plan. The same thing happened to First Bank. 2016, Sky Bank and UBA, if you remember, before, when they filed some of these bank penalties, they said go and pay 100,000. Even CAC, if you see some of the old Kama, 2004 Kama, 1999, 1990 Kama, you will see 5,000 naira, 1,000 naira. Because then, when they made the law, they made it based on the amount, 1,000 naira then in 1990 was something. So they reviewed the law now. They've reviewed all those penalties. Because what happened is that company secretary will even advise, even I've seen, even me, I've done it before. I said, if we didn't file for 5 days, how much are we going to pay? I beg, go and sit down, we'll pay the penalties. So no wala, it's more money. But when they review it, nobody wants to try it anymore. Because sometimes 20,000, 100,000 now you have to pay. For every day you are defaulting. So if you default for 3 months, you can imagine. So, and then when your MD say, do you want me to pay? Do you want to have a company secretary? Please, we are going to be deducting this money from the company secretary salary because it's the one that puts us into trouble. What happened? So you not advise that kind of thing again because now the amount of penalty is small. The same thing under Finance Act. If you see the Finance Act that was just promulgated, same things. The penalties have been high. It's not like before, 1,000 naira if you breach something. So people will go and pay it and say, I'll pay the fine, I'll breach the law. So same thing happened. Guinness Nigeria PLC, because they breached NAFDAC rule, the same thing in 2016, they fined them 1 billion naira for breaching. Guinness is a multinational. They were, all these multinational, they always believe they are so powerful because they were threatened they would go to court because they have been harassed by this and this. At the end of the day, they had to beg. They beg the regulator because you cannot fight the regulator, especially when they have evidence that you have breached the law. So the same thing. So finally, we will see, but it's not all of them that are bad stories. They have a good story of AOS Orwell. It's always good to also see what saved AOS Orwell. I was there. I was the general counsel and the group committee secretary of AOS Orwell. In 2016, an expatriate who was outsourced from another foreign outsourcing company filed $2 million for damages against AOS Orwell, a Nigerian company, and I was the general counsel as at that time. What happened is that 2 legs of the expatriate had been amputated.
Sorry, Mr. Megbemi. Sorry to cut you short again. There's a meeting, another Zoom meeting will soon start at 3 o'clock on the same platform. So kindly just expedite so that we end it.
I'm at the concluding points.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
So what saved AOS Orwell here is simply because of the fact that they were able to escape the huge liability. One is that when we were making this expatriate agreement, and also when we did draft the outsourcing agreement, the company that outsourced the expatriate to us, we put what we call arbitration agreement. So when the man goes to court, he says this is a civil matter, and there's an arbitration clause. So you should go to arbitration. And arbitration is going to be determined by both parties. So we are able to, first of all, no Scottish court here. Because Scottish court is going to fine us. Because any accident-related case in an oil and gas company is against the company, especially when you breach some laws. So, but also we have documentary evidence of accident policy and procedure at AOSOL. So we're able to tender it at arbitration. So the arbitral tribunal shifted the liability from AOSOL to the foreign outsourcing company. That is risk management, proactive risk management. When we're putting the arbitration clause, somebody would have said, what is the purpose of arbitration clause? There's no likelihood there's going to be dispute. But we said arbitration clause must always be in every agreement, no matter what, even though it's an outsourcing agreement and we are outsourcing this man for just 6 months. So even then, you may not even do an agreement. You may just do one pager agreement. We said, no, all our agreement must be fully documented. What saved us from $2 million? If we had paid $2 million, only during that time, 2016 was what the period of oil and gas price decline in Nigeria, when every oil and gas company was suffering from huge decline in their resources and in their bottom line. Then we are now going to pay $2 million. So this is what saved us in the organization. And it's a good story and success story. Finality and the summary is that for you as a risk manager, is that, what Professor Michael Porter has said is that it is incomplete without the right culture and technology, and it is useless if it does not help business performance and translate into corporate sustainability. Because the goal is not risk minimization, but risk optimization. So please have what we call comprehensive regulatory checklist and risk register. You must have a regulatory legal risk policy and strategy. Go and have it. Risk rating and optimization. There are a lot of software that can help you to do risk rating so that you can do your optimization properly. You can even know some of the risks you can take advantage of. And you can advise your company, this risk is a risk, but we can take advantage of. You can transform the company bottom line by this. BCP, Business Continuity Plan, and DRP, Disaster Recovery Plan, it must be there in your policy. Please don't forget. Insurance, every risk, make sure that there is an insurance policy for every risk in your organization. It must also be in your risk policy. CSR, we have told you to spiritualize. Insurance is material insurance. It's spiritual. CSR is a spiritual way of insurance. It's a spiritual way of getting God's protection over your business. Do charity. Your business is making money. When they are making money, small money, give scholarship, help people, give orphans, do small things in your society. It helps. It's a form of spiritual insurance, define protection. Whether you like it or not, take it. That we are bringing in some of these principles. But we have seen it. We are scholars. We have seen it work. Leadership, culture, and technology. Like I told you, the greatest challenge in risk management is management. So the right culture, the right leadership is also key. And technology, you must use technology. Even though technology itself is a risk, you have to use risk to counter risk. That's my message. That's what will lead to corporate sustainability, which is the message of governance. All governance professionals, what we want to achieve in organization is corporate sustainability. Profitability that is long-lasting, not profitability that is short, cut, or short, So I have given a list of regulations. We have given it. These are the list of regulations that deal with compliance that everybody needs to know. I don't need to go through it. We all know it. If you are lucky to have the slide, some of you can look at it. These are the rules and regulations that you must look at when you are looking at your risk. When you are drawing your risk register, you must ask, what did all this law, what did they tell? Company Karma, ISA, NIPCR, all of them. These are the rules that deal with business. Tax regulation, Finance Act, Financial Reporting Council, Nigeria Data Protection. All of them now are important. You must itemize all the list in them. Regulatory checklist, detailed regulatory checklist. I'm doing one that I want to say that's where I want to make my money. Because I know a lot of legal advisors are lazy. Nobody has been able to sit down to do a detailed, comprehensive regulatory checklist for business anymore in Nigeria. So I'm working on it, and I pray that nobody will move faster than me to sell in the market. So these are my sources of reference. Integrated risk management. That is the modern approach to risk management. Anybody go and read Emilia Facile. It's a good book. You can Google it. You will see it on the internet. Then if you are looking to form of the framework and tools you can use, COSO Committee on Sports Organization of Tradeway, you can go to their website. Michael Porter, read it. It will tell you how you can turn risk to profit, how you can turn risk to advantage. That risk can be a competition. You can optimize risk. Not every time you avoid it. So risk management is not just about risk avoidance. It can be optimized. I've given examples. Risk management failures. You can read some of them on www.cornerstone.com. They are there. Lexicology.com library. You can also visit them to read about some of the risk failures in Nigeria. So those are good. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry for taking your time, but I just have to give you a good job so that, I mean, we have to give you what will be useful to you and to also make ICSAN to be proud. Thank you. And I'm so sorry, Mr. Ojiji, for keeping late.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Mwegwemi. Thank you so much. Wow, that was a very, very robust, rich, and insightful presentation. I should say our distinguished participants should please give you a round of applause wherever they are, because you've really dealt extensively, and the session has been on for a long time. And I know that our participants have really gained tremendously, coupled with the fact that they're also going to have this material to further reinforce the learning of today.